Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2023-2024 Corporate Fund Budget. Right now it's 5 p.m. Today's April the 4th. We have additional sessions for the rest of the departments on the 6th, on the 13th, on the 18th of April, and on the 21st. And then we have a reserve date on April the 28th. And then the budget public hearing will be on the 16th of May at 6 p.m. And the budget final approval would be on the 23rd of May at 6 p.m. Between now and then, if you're looking to see the exact times, you're welcome to go on the city's website, and that will put on there as far as the specific times without having to go over them right now. Today's session, we're going to go ahead and start with our Human Resources Department giving us a presentation. For those council members that are here, just in case, we're going to wait until the presenter is done with their presentation, and then we'll go ahead and ask whatever questions that we may have.
Council Chair?
Yes.
Just before we start, thank you guys so much for being here also with us and to our colleagues. But just keep, when we're going through this, can you make sure you're letting us know what page you're on and when we're going back and forth on that? I know Mr. Staputa did it for us last year, and it was easy, it was great, and thank you. I know you're going to do a great job.
Can I, excuse me, can I just request that I do a PowerPoint presentation for you, just to give you an overview of what we're talking about today?
Sure,
before
no
we
problem.
go into
Sure.
HR?
Absolutely, go for it.
I have this great PowerPoint presentation that I do want to say that my accountant here, Max, had created, so I hope you enjoy it.
Okay, great.
Information on it. Mine doesn't.
Thanks, Max. We appreciate you for being here as well.
This is for you to write. I don't know, what's it say?
Okay, so first is obviously just City of Dearborn Heights proposed budget, fiscal year for 23-24.
You want to change it so that it's just looking at your slide.
Yeah, that's on.
Yeah, so hold on a second. There you go.
Next, we have a list of what's the agenda items. We're going to be talking about the general fund revenue by category, the general fund expenses by department, the major expenditure changes, the general fund budget year-over-year change, salary overview and breakdown, road repairs and maintenance, water sewer fund highlights, and library and TIFA breakdown. And of course, we didn't forget about you, Council Chair.
Okay.
So I wanted to introduce our council. Obviously, I'm not going to say last names because I'm really bad at slaughtering them. So I'll just go with first names. We have Dave, our council chair, Ray, our council chair pro team, Nancy, our councilwoman, Mo, councilman, Bob, councilman, Hassan, councilman, and Tom Wenzel. Thank you, everyone. General fund breakdown. And here you will see our revenues, and it is broken down by category. We've got our property taxes, state shared revenue, our reimbursements, our federal state grants, our other revenues, district court, and licenses and permits, totaling of $59,685,421. We can always go back and discuss certain items on this, but right now this is just an overview.
Can you go back one?
Sure.
Actually, Director, if you don't mind. if
You email
could,
this.
Either email it to us or print
Of
it out for
course.
us, it'd be great.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'd like to have that.
General fund expenditures, our top three departments in our fiscal year 23-24 is obviously our general government at $14 million, our police department at $14 million, and our fire department at $12 million. Top three department accounts are about 70% of our total general fund expenses, which is your sanitation, police department salaries, pensions, and fire department salaries and pensions. This is an overview of your department expenses that we will be going through line item by line item in our budget. But this just gives you an overview, and you can see how much we're spending on each department.
And can you go back to that real quick? I'm so
Sure.
sorry. I know you're gonna mail it to us. I just want to see.
No, it's okay, go ahead. Yes.
Well, we just said she's gonna mail it to us.
Yeah, I have to apologize. I was under the impression that this was something that would be done after the preliminary budget. So unfortunately, this is something that we put together over the weekend. So we were finalizing this today. Otherwise, you would definitely have it earlier.
Also, Councilman, I want to point out something to you and the others. Even though we're going through department by department, we're going to be going through line item by line item at a later date, obviously. So at that particular point, questions may arise by yourself or myself or whoever it is, and then we will be revisiting the different departments, although not as deep of a visit, but we will be revisiting everything.
Right, because this is preliminary. These
Right.
numbers can change.
Right. And if I can interrupt you for a sec, also for a lot of the council members, I just want to remind you, a lot of these are, the process is the different department heads meet with administration, and then they give them their
Wish list.
wants, their wishes, what things they would love to have, and then they negotiate. So this thing goes through multiple phases. They negotiate back and forth with administration. They cut it down to what they could come to an agreement between the administration, being the mayor's office, and the different department heads. Then they bring these to us. When they bring these to us, these are still asks. So these are not obviously automatically approved. This is what we're starting with. And then I hate to use the words negotiate, but we
Right.
debate, argue,
Yes.
yell, scream, do whatever we need to do. And then we come to a final agreement, and then we do the final approval. So this is not the end-all, be-all is what I'm trying to tell you guys.
Right,
Go ahead.
okay. Thank you. Year over year, your major expenditure changes. I'm giving you an overview. The comptroller is over 165% from the last year to this year because we are moving the professional services that we were previously budgeted under general government over to the comptroller department. And then there's just a little bit of cushion there for additional professional service support, which we will discuss when we start going into my budget for comptroller. The IT department obviously is up. The IT department obviously is up because that is new, and we did put the software, BSB, and the internet purchased, $248,000. Human Resources is up 45% because of the contracted services and an additional salaries, which again, we will discuss that going forward. Fire department is up because of a crash response vehicle. Again, we will talk about that when we discuss the fire department. And general government is actually down by 6% because of the things that we moved out of there, out into the other departments. General fund budget year over year changes from 22 to 23. We had revenue of about 56 million and our expenses were at 59 million, which meant that we were over budget by 2.8, and that's where we had moved funds from our ARPA to balance our budget last year. This year, we have a balanced budget where we have our revenue at 59,685,421, and right now our general fund expenditures are at 58,753,246, which gives us $932,000 more in revenue than in expenses today. And that's just going to give you now a salaries of overview of our breakdown. This gives you salaries estimated overtime, including overtime, based on each department. Go ahead. It's okay. This is a breakdown of our union employees based on the department and how many employees there are in each department and what the combined union salaries are. This is our non-union elected officials, executive leadership, department directors, deputy manager, and admin support, and I broke it down based on the category that they fall under. And again, these things can all be discussed in detail. I just wanted to give you an overview. Go ahead. Roads, repairs, and maintenance. We have local and major streets expenses highlighting for 23-24. We've got combined expenses about $7,565,500, and a breakdown for major streets, $4,683,000. with street construction, street and bridge repairs, and winter maintenance. Our local streets, 2.882, and that's going to cover street construction, street repairs, and winter maintenance. Here's our water and sewer breakdown. And this gives you the revenue for our water and sewer fund, which is about 28 million. And then we're going to be about, let's see, bonds. And so it's just kind of giving you an overview of where our revenue is coming from. And then again, what we're expected, this is our water rate increase for the year, and that would be waiting, will be upon council approval. We will be raising our water rate increase to 5.29% and the sewer rate about 8.54%.
Right.
Okay, we're going to do questions at the end.
Yes,
But obviously, just to address that specifically, that's not coming for a vote until maybe July. as I
that's
see.
correct. So your water sewer fund expenses, your highlights for 23-24, we're estimating about 44 million, and that's going to cover your CSL L42 project, your wholesale water costs for GLUA, and your wholesale water costs for DUA, as well as capital outlays is about 5.1 million. And then we're going to finish up with your library and TIFA funds. And library revenue and expenses, estimated revenues between around 3.1 million, and the library millages 2.5, your state grant, and then your contract from TIFA for debt. Estimated expenses is your salaries, your bond payments, and your interest. And then finally, your TIFA fund highlights. The TIFA fund projects they're paying this year, they've budgeted for debt payments. That's just your acquisition, bond payment, and interest. Your sanitary sewer lining expense, they're giving us 1.5 million for that. And then other improvement projects, which we do have a list that will be included in your packet when we go over the TIFA funds. And that's it.
Where's Bub?
You had to do this.
Oh, you know we did.
That's-
I want to thank Max for
Hey,
that.
Tom Wenzel, she's stealing your thunder there. This would have been something you would have done.
Maybe Vince with his Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, or Vince. Okay, well, thank you very much, Controller. Much
You're very
appreciated.
welcome.
And you said you'll email us a copy?
Absolutely.
please?
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Well put together. And I know, for what the Controller presented right now, it's still, early stages, kind of a bird's eye view of a lot of things, but I think Councilman, you had a question? So if you have questions for her, not the deep dive, because eventually each department will have a deep dive, but do you have a question in regards to?
No, I'm all set. Those percentages were, in the beginning, the percentage, that department is over budget from last year, and then you were explaining to us why. Like you said, IT, because it's a new department.
Correct.
And I just wanted to make sure those percentages were over budget, and they were.
You good?
Council Chair, I have one too.
Go ahead.
Hi, right here.
Oh,
Hey,
hi.
how are you? So I know you mentioned something, the total budget is 59 million, like we have an excess of almost 900,000 or a little bit over 900,000
Yes.
overage? So
Overage.
is that because we use all the 7.2 million, the ARPA money, or?
Okay, you're thinking two different things. This is
Yeah.
a budget. We're basing our budget based on our revenue, and our revenue this year is 59 million.
Okay.
That's for
We-
this year, not
This-
last year.
For 23-24.
Anticipated, in other words.
Yes. So for 23-24, we've got 59 million money that we can budget, we can
Okay.
use.
Okay.
So through that, we came up with a budget with 56 million of expenses. So, or 58 million.
58
I don't
million.
remember. Thank you. Okay, so that's why we've got some cushion of $932,000. We haven't touched the ARPA funds. All we did was move that over to the general fund.
Was there any ARPA money used to budget this,
No, that was last year, not this year. We came up with a balanced budget without
job.
using any excess funds.
Council Chair, if I
Go ahead.
just- And the phrase we used in Lansing
Good to know.
was, so we take 12 million of ARPA money and we use it to redo all our parks. And then we also put our money in our general fund from that ARPA money for the expense to do that. That was called backfilling. And Dave Savan, who is here, is that a term that your office uses or no?
I'm not familiar with that term.
all I-
Yeah,
Thank you.
I just say that we put it in fund balance and it's used there for reserves.
To reimburse the general fund for whatever.
Okay. Any other council members have questions for the controller before we start with human resources? Obviously, when she emails us stuff to us, you may have additional questions, we could ask them then. But for right now, any other questions? None? Okay. Human resources it is.
So before we get into my individual department in terms of the Human Resources Department, I wanted to do a presentation for you in terms of overall staffing and what is staffing looking like as we're forecasting the next year. So I gave you a copy of the PowerPoint if you want to make notes as I go through it. But this is to give you kind of a 20,000-foot view of what's going on in staffing for the city and what we're forecasting for the 23-24 year. Oh. Whoops. I did it wrong. Okay, sorry. Okay, so I like to revisit in terms of what are the factors that come into calculating staffing and how do we determine our staffing. So of course, we have our components of compensation, we have wages and salary, and then we have benefits, fringe benefits and pension. So wage and salary, we're accustomed to that. That's our hourly rate or our salary rate. You know, everybody is familiar with those terms. But when it comes to benefits, lots of things can fall under benefits. So we want you to know that we're including our health insurance, our dental, our vision, our life insurance. We also offer accidental death and dismemberment, short-term disability insurance, and then we have a discount program through telehealth that encompasses the benefits that we offer to all of our staff and all of our positions that are eligible for benefits. Then fringe benefits is a little different term, and this is really what we consider an indirect form of compensation. This is often where our time off falls into play. So that's where our holidays, vacations, sick time, bereavement, personal days, and then, of course, mandated benefits in terms of Social Security, unemployment, things like that that we have to pay. So most of these things are governed by our collective bargaining agreements that will articulate for the positions how much of this kind of time they're eligible for. There are also triggers related to longevity in terms of your length of service. The longer you serve with the city, the more time off you get in some of these categories, especially with respect to vacation. And then, I didn't know if you're aware of this also, we also offer tuition reimbursement. We have longevity, the concept there is to reward you for your years of service and send you to stay with us longer. We also have an employee assistance program, and many of our contracts provide a uniform allowance. So all of those things kind of fall under our fringe benefit umbrella. So in terms of how we think of those and how we compensate for those. And then, of course, we have pension. So generally, most of our contracts have modified what our ordinances say, and they speak about 25 years of employment. We have Public Act 345 for our public safety employees for their pension, and then we have the general government employee pension, and then, of course, we also have retiree health care. So those are all factors that we take into account in terms of the cost and value associated with that when we're looking at our staffing. So, Fair Labor Standard Act, federal law. This really is what articulates the difference between salary and hourly. And this is often a confusing idea for us because the law talks about exempt and non-exempt, and we generally translate that into layman's terms, salary versus hourly. And so really the difference when you're salary, the idea is that the scope of responsibilities that you have and the productivity that we expect is set. And if that takes you 20 hours a week or 65 hours a week, we pay you the same amount because we're really looking for the outcome for those kinds of positions. So, and for a position to qualify, Fair Labor Standard Act has criteria that it has to meet. So it has to be paid at a certain amount. There has to be a certain level of responsibility and decision-making that's associated with that position. So we can't just arbitrarily decide that we want one position to be salary because we want to save on overtime. There's really criteria that we have to follow according to the Fair Labor Standard Act to make that happen. And then our non-exempt are hourly, so your pay fluctuates based on the hours worked. You are eligible for overtime. So generally, under Fair Labor Standard, if you work more than 40 hours a week, then any hours beyond that, we would have to pay you at time and a half of your hourly wage. In our collective bargaining agreements, we have framed that a little differently. Sometimes overtime, you're eligible for that if you are working after your scheduled hours for a particular day. We also have language with respect if you're required to come in on a holiday or on a Saturday or a Sunday, and our collective bargaining agreement addresses how overtime is compensated under those circumstances. There. The last piece here, compensatory time, or as we call, comp time. So as a public sector employer, for those employees who are hourly employees eligible to earn overtime, they have an option to take it as comp time. And so we also have things in our collective bargaining agreements that speak to comp time and the accumulation of comp time. We have caps in there. As you know, it's been a challenge for us coming in, us new to the organization, coming into administrative roles, to inherit some of the balances that some of our employees had accrued over time that were beyond the caps that were in the collective bargaining agreements. And as you know, as we've worked with each of our groups and tried to negotiate a new contract, we've tried to address those things and to bring us back into alignment with some of the caps that we had in our contracts, and to get rid of that outstanding liability that we had in terms of some large comp balances that some of our employees had, and some still have, because we're not done bargaining with everybody yet. Okay, a full-time position, FTE. This is something that you see in a lot of my communications, but what it really refers to is a full-time equivalent. So how we determine that in the city, we determine that a couple of different ways. We have some 5-day work week positions that are scheduled to work 260 days, your traditional, what you would think of, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, 2,080 hours. But we also have other work weeks that we consider full-time that we've bargained with some of our groups that fall into fewer than 260 days, and that equates to 1,872 hours. We have determined through the bargaining process that that meets the criteria for full-time. And then part-time. So part-time is a big umbrella of positions. Generally speaking, we're limiting a part-time position to 28 hours per week. Part-time positions are not eligible for benefits, any of the medical, dental, or paid time off. And in some of our positions, we're limited to staffing that by 180 days per position before we would have to rotate. We also have some regular or permanent part-time opportunities. Those tend to be capped at 20 hours per week. Again, not necessarily benefit eligible, and they may continue indefinitely. There's no set deadline for those. And in the places where we have a lot of part-time positions, the library, Parks and Rec Department, our police department, if you think about the jailers, the 20th District Court, if you think about the security guards, our police department also has crossing guards, so those fall into part-time positions. And then we have some part-time positions in our pension. We staff our pension with a couple of part-time positions, and many other departments. So this is where the majority of them are housed. So we have a few part-time across the different departments, but this is where the majority of the part-time positions reside. So when you're thinking about full-time compared to part-time, I just wanted to give you a comparison. So again, a full-time position can be either salary or hourly. It's generally benefit eligible, pension eligible, and we think of it as a permanent position. So we're looking to fill it for someone to stay in that position for the long haul. And then our part-time positions can only be hourly. They're less than 40, may be a permanent or a temporary position, and generally we limit it to not more than 28 hours per week, and generally less than 6 months. Okay, so when it comes to positions and thinking about new positions and things of that nature, how do we determine pay? What are the factors that we take into account? So when we're determining a rate of pay, it's based on job factors, which include your scope of responsibilities. So you have to think about what level of independent decision-making do I have, and what kind of impact is that position going to have on the organization as a whole. And then, of course, skills, content, knowledge, and abilities are SKA. And then supervision. Is the job going to be required to supervise people, which is a challenge in terms of accomplishing tasks through the work of others, supervising that, managing that, promoting that, supporting that. And then the complexity of the tasks. So is it pretty straightforward, a given process? I follow these 5 steps every time I'm doing the ABC task? Or is it a process where there's decision-making being made by the employee in that position in terms of how a task is going to be accomplished? There's more than one way that it could be done, and the employee has the discretion to determine the best way to do that. And then we're looking at comparables when we're looking at new positions. We look at market rate. We try to look at other organizations comparable to our size, public sector organizations. Most organizations have a pay philosophy, and if you think about private sector and competition, you think about some places pay below the market, some are at the market, some lead the market. So it depends on the nature of the business that you have and what kind of philosophy you might follow with respect to that. So what your turnover is and what the complexity of the tasks are that you're hiring people to do. And then, of course, your ability to pay is always an important factor. Okay. And then the role of your HR department in terms of staffing is one of the components is really a gatekeeper, if you will. So once the budget is set and the staffing is determined, then as positions become vacant, it's our responsibility to help facilitate filling those. But if new positions come forward, then we're the gatekeeper to go, well, is this an additional FTE or is this within the allocation of your current department? So we're a little bit of the gatekeeper with respect to that. Budgeted position versus a new position, and of course we're responsible for recruitment and retention, and then updating job descriptions as we go forward. So people who have served in a position for a long time in our city, their tasks may have evolved over time. When they exit that position, we want to make sure that we're capturing what their tasks actually are from the next person who's moving into that position, and so that's an ongoing writing campaign. And now looking at, so that gives you the basics of how we look at staffing and how we try to compute these things. So here's our staffing proposal in terms of what staffing is going to look like for the upcoming year. So for the 22-23 year, we were staffed at 293.5 FTEs, full-time equivalent positions. What we're looking for the upcoming year, 23-24, is we're proposing an increase of 3 positions. We're looking at a GIS coordinator in the Building and Engineering Department, a confidential secretary in the HR department, which may be subject to negotiations. That's why there's an asterisk there, and a paralegal for corporate counsel.
So how does it work being 293.5?
So the 0.5 is a part-time position.
Okay, I thought the FTE stands for
So
full-time.
sometimes I might have, I don't here in the city, I only have a handful of part-time positions that would fall into that category, but sometimes it is one person serving in 2 different departments. So when I go to account for the cost of their compensation, then I'm splitting that between 2 departments. So they might be a 0.5 in ordinance and a 0.5 in the police department, but it's one person in a full-time position. But that's how we're breaking out and covering the cost for their compensation.
Okay, council members, let's allow her to finish just in case, and we'll go ahead and go with the questions. Go ahead.
Okay. So then I want to talk with you about each of these positions. So the GIS coordinator, we're estimating a $70,000 salary for that position, would be housed in the Building and Engineering Department, requires a degree and expertise. So this position, we feel, is going to be able to help us with the issues in terms of boundaries and assessors and how our property boundaries is the best word that I can think of, have not been updated, have not been corrected. And so that's a real challenge for us whenever someone wants to start something or build a house or do an expansion. And so the information has not been housed with the city when it has been done. And we also know that it really needs to be updated in order for us to accurately be able to provide the tax benefits to the city in terms of what we're doing with respect to those boundaries. There are a lot of components associated with this. This will help the assessment department. This will help the building and engineering department. This is a need that we have had for a while. And we feel that this is the time for us to try to address it and that this is an appropriate position to make that happen for us. But this is proposed. Okay. The second position is the paralegal. This would be housed with our corporate counsel. Again, expecting a degree in expertise. Often a paralegal is someone who's also attending law school, but there are training programs and skills associated with just serving fully as a paralegal. We're estimating that salary for that position to be about $80,000. And then the last one would be adding a confidential secretary to the HR department. Our current executive secretarial positions, confidential secretaries, are right in that $55,000 range. So that's why we set the salary at that amount. I have another point. And it would be in the HR department. So again, as we come to the building and engineering department, and as we come to corporate counsel, and as we come to the HR department, we'll come back to these positions if you have questions about them. Most of our departments requested more staffing, and as we looked at the totality of the budget, this is our recommendation in terms of what administration is prioritizing and the impact that it would have on the organization. We would really love to have granted everybody their position requests. They're solid, practical requests that are coming in. And again, we look at our resources and try to prioritize different departments at different times.
I got a quick question on that.
No.
Just let her finish. She's almost done. Then we'll
Yep.
go ahead and go through all the questions.
Because
that's where they preferred it.
That's the salary, I understand. Does the salary that's there, is that including the benefits, longevity and everything, or is that just?
Nope, that's just salary. That's not the benefit package. And then I want to talk to you a little bit about staffing changes because you're going to see some of that as we go through the different departments. So a staffing change is when a department stays within their allocation, their FTE allocation, and reclassify a position. So we've done that in the comptroller's office. Our DPW supervisors went from supervisors to superintendents. In our library, we still have 8 librarians, but we had moved some to branch managers, again, scope of responsibilities. And in our police department, we're doing some reclassification, staying within their allocation, but assigning different jobs to those tasks. Okay, and then I thought you would be curious about where we were with vacant positions, so I'm just giving you a quick update here with respect to this. So the thing about staffing and about vacant positions is that you have to understand this is a constant moving target. So that's why I say as of April 3rd, I can tell you that this is where we are. So as of April 3rd, we have 41 open full-time positions for the city of Dearborn Heights. And the way that those break down is that we have 1 in the comptroller, 1 in the treasurer. We have 13 in our DPW area. Highway has 3, building and maintenance has 3, and our water department has 7.
Can you go back to that, please?
You have it on your sheet right
I don't think I have that.
Yeah, and maybe do we have an extra one for the city attorney?
I don't have that sheet.
Oh, you didn't get one?
Thanks.
It's in the packet.
Oh,
Well, I
this.
pulled it
this
back
thing.
up. I pulled it back up for you.
It's in the staffing,
HR director, do you have an extra one of these by chance?
page 7.
I didn't say you took it, I just said I don't have it.
So I'm
What
helping
part of that don't you understand?
Boy,
Sorry, Ryan. I'll remember next time.
Okay, moving on.
Yes, please.
All right. Then in our fire department, we're down 5 positions, and in our police department, we're down 21 positions. So in our police department, that's 4 command officers, 11 patrol officers, and 6 dispatchers. The good news for both of our fire and our police department are that for our fire department, we have conducted interviews through our Act 78 process. We now have a certified list of firefighters, so we're going to be able to start making offers of employment there. We're excited about that. In our police department, the 4 command officers is a promotional process. So we're following the collective bargaining agreement with respect to that promotional process. We have scheduled dates in May for the testing, in June for the oral board. So we're on our way to being able to fill those. And then for our 11 patrol officers, we have 6 patrol officers that have been certified on a list through Act 78. So we're going to be able to start offering those positions. There's a letter of understanding that's going to be part of the council packet for our next council meeting, in which we're trying to work out something called a lateral agreement with the union, which would allow us to hire experienced police officers and give them some credit for that experience within specific parameters that we have worked out with the union that will also help us. So just like in a school district, you never want a school building that has all new teachers in their first year. You always want some kind of mixture there in terms of that balance. Similarly, as we're going forward to fill in our positions for the police department, we don't want all brand new people. You know, we want a mixture. And so a lateral understanding, a lateral agreement with the union will allow us to do a combination of those two things, so that we've got new people, brand new to the profession, coming on board, and also experienced people who really want to come and serve in the city of Dearborn Heights. And then with respect to the 6 dispatchers, we also have certified lists for those positions, so we're making those offers. We have more people on the list than we have open positions. Yay! So that's really good news. So we're going to be able to move forward in terms of getting those filled. But just to give you an idea about where we are with respect to that. Okay, and then here's something I call HR by the numbers. So even though we're staffed for 290, a little under 300, full-time positions, for the 2022 year, we issued 487 W-2s, just to give you an idea of the volume of people that move through the payroll department and the HR department. We have 348 active retirees that we also support. And in the calendar year of 2022, January to December 31st, 66 new employees were hired and 78 employees separated. So again, payroll and HR are touching all of those activities. So sometimes when you think about 300 employees, but then you see what our W-2 is, you get an idea of the volume there in terms of what we're working with. Okay, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Good job. Councilman Bedun's first, so go ahead, Councilman.
No,
then
it's okay.
Councilman
I'm
Martin.
sorting my questions down.
Okay, go ahead.
HR director, the fire department with the 5 vacancies, how many do we have that we're looking at right now, if they've actually been interviewed?
So we have a certified list of 5 people, and we're also in the throes of a promotional process. So one of those vacancies is for a promotion.
So will we have 5 people on a list to be hired?
We do.
Okay, and the police, how many do we have for police?
So for police, we have 6 on the list for patrol officers.
What do you mean the list?
So through Act 78, after we have done the testing and the oral board, then there's a composite score done. So that's the civil service process. So you have a score for your written, and then you have a score for the oral board. And then there's a combination of that score, which results in a final number. And then you're in rank order based on that composite number. And then the commission verifies that that is correct and that the scores are correct, and they sign off. And now you are on a certified list. And that's what needs to be in place in order for me to be able to offer a job.
And another question here?
Go ahead.
About the part-time people in ordinance. I know they are only allowed to stay for 6 months.
Yes.
Is there a way we can, I guess that would be contract negotiations, it's probably not the time for that, but I know there's a big turnover with the part-time people there, and we train them, they leave and get a job somewhere else, fully trained, full-time, and we lose their expertise there. But my big concern is with the fire department and police. Boy, we can't be without those guys.
Yeah.
Got to do something for them.
Yeah. So with respect to the part-time positions in ordinance, you might recall last year that we added a full-time position to the ordinance department. That's been a big help. And then with respect to any position that falls under the TPOAM union, we can fill that part-time, but for not longer than 6 months. And I think that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, I'd like to
terms
see that
in terms of
change.
that turnover. So, we understand that part of that is also to try to safeguard full-time positions so that there wouldn't be a situation where administration didn't fill full-time positions and only filled them part-time. So, that's not a scenario that either of us want, but I think that's why that language is in that contract, is to address that.
But we're in a budget season, and we're talking about money here. I mean, the amount of people that we have as far as part-timers, and we spend that kind of money on part-timers, why wouldn't we just make them a full-time?
So when it comes to the budget and where we are with our resources, there's two things going on. One is I have times of the year in which I need more help and times of the year in which I do not. And so when I'm faced with a situation in which I need more help, temporary seasonal help is a good fit to help with that workflow. And then I'm also saving on the benefit costs in terms of the benefit package and the pension and the paid time off.
The benefits package, I understand, but ordinance is not a seasonal thing. We need ordinance 365.
Yeah,
So that's how I feel, so.
okay. But you're right,
Any-
that is subject to
Yes.
negotiation.
Yeah, Council Chair. Yeah, I have one. I don't know if I missed it. Well, thank you first, both of you, for an amazing presentation. So for the open position, they're not budgeted in the budget, correct?
Yes, they are.
They are?
Yes, so the 41 open positions we have today is part of the 293.5
Okay.
FTE budgeted for this fiscal year, for the 22-23 year.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to point out for some of the council members in the audience, when I found this out about 6 years ago, it blew my mind, but the biggest employer in the city of Dearborn Heights is the city of Dearborn Heights, with the biggest employer. There's no other, that's why sometimes when people compare to other cities and they say, well, how come that city's doing this and that city's doing that? Their biggest employers is not the city hall. In our case, it's our city, and then Hype being the first non-governmental, Hype would be the next biggest.
Another question, if you don't
Go ahead.
mind. If you have all of these people budgeted, like say, and we're still short 5 officers, 5 firemen, and 21 police officers, they're budgeted for, but what happens with the money if you don't get it? You don't get
Don't
those
get
people.
them.
Yeah, goes back into the general fund. So remember that 21 is not 21 police officers, right? It's 6 dispatch, it's 4 police supervisors, it's 11 patrol officers.
So we're not 21 police officers down?
No.
We are not. We're down 6 dispatchers, which again, I have 10 people on a certified list. So that's about offering and getting them on board. And then our training process for our dispatch is a rather
So we
lengthy
have
process, so I do a
we're
staggered
11
hire.
police officers down?
As of April 3rd, yes.
Director, in your, I know you've been, as our HR director for what, 2 years now, 3? Is it 2 or 3?
Year and a half.
Year and a half, okay.
Almost a year
You're doing
and
a
a
great
half.
job, by the way. Have you seen any change as far as being able to attract more police officers? Because let's talk about the elephant in the room. Everybody talks about that. There's been a little bit of a challenge with, across the board, nationwide, police departments hiring additional police officers. But have you seen any type of change in the last year and a half doing this? And what can we do as council members? For me, I tell you, I've always been a proponent of hiring officers at a higher salary. And I know, me and you have had this conversation. You always say we have a lot of great benefits, and I'm sure we do. But I still think starting out at 40,000, in my opinion, is just.
36.
No, it's 40.
It's 40.
Yeah, it's 40,000. It's still way too low, in my opinion. And I see a lot of the ads for a lot of different departments that show, 56,000 and 52,000, et cetera, et cetera. And me and you talked about this. I felt I would rather have, for us as a city, a higher pay upfront, which would attract more officers than just the fringe benefits. Just because it's something that's right in front of them versus the carrot for when they retire, 20, 30 years from
Yeah,
now.
after only 25 short years.
Well,
right?
25. 25.
So what I would share with you is a couple of things. First of all, with respect to our patrol officers, that contract expires June 30th of 2023. So, we're preparing to go to the table and, begin the bargaining process with that group, number one. Secondly, I would share with you that what we've done is we have worked with Act 78 in terms of revisiting some of their rules to look at opportunities in which we could bring people on board into the police department and start them down the pathway of becoming a police officer. The third thing that I would share with you is that what we are working out with the union currently is the ability to give someone credit for their years of service as a police officer in other cities, which would allow us to bring them in at higher than the 40,000
I thought we
start
had that
rate.
already,
So,
where they have parallel, so if I'm coming, like, for example, because I could have sworn, I thought we spoke about this. So if I'm coming from, let's say, Farmington Hills, and I've got, I don't know, 8 years there, when I come here, I'm not going to start at the lowest level.
you would now, under current contract language, yes, you would.
But then that would,
So-
I can
so-
see that not attracting any experienced
Correct.
police officers.
So this is why we'll have something before you for the next council meeting that we've been talking with the union about to work out. And that's what I had referenced earlier when I talked about a lateral move. It's a complicated thing, so I don't want to get into it at this point in time with you. That'll be coming up for next Tuesday. But those are the three things that we're doing, to address that. And then, of course, we'll be going to the bargaining table and we'll have an opportunity to try to address all of the things for that both the administration and the police officers want to come out of that collective bargaining agreement.
Council Chair.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Bob.
Councilman, go ahead.
So just so I understand what you're saying, so as of now, somebody works for the Farmington Hills Police Department. They have 9 years there. Whatever happens, they get fired, or they say, look, you better resign or we're going to fire you, so they get fired. Or they leave. So they come over here and they're a lieutenant or they're the community police officer. As of now, they start out fresh with the city of Dearborn Heights. You're talking about something different than that as far as, do you mean pay scale or do you mean something else?
So today, if you are an experienced police officer in another community and we
You
want to
leave.
hire you in the city of Dearborn Heights, we'll assume,
Wait, I didn't hear what you said.
I said that today, if you're a patrol officer in another community and you want to come work for the city of Dearborn Heights as a patrol officer, then today, what I can offer you is the entry-level step one,
Right.
regardless of what your experience is, okay? What I was sharing with you is that we're working on a couple of different strategies. One with Act 78, the civil service process, which has rules around these components that we're asking for some leeway there so that we can get people started
Yeah, and that's what
sooner.
I'm trying to
And
understand,
secondly-
what concept you have.
We're getting off track here. The
Yeah.
police will be talked about at a.
I'll ask about it. Very good point. I'll ask about it later.
Because we got a lot to go through, and we're
Yep,
running out of
yep.
time.
How many
Okay.
police officers said we were down as April 3rd, though?
11.
I'm sorry, good point.
Okay,
Thank you.
so let's go ahead and go into the
Council Chair?
specifics of the budget. Yes, Councilman.
Okay, I got a couple questions. The staffing in the HR department, I know they've, in the past, besides the director, they've been all union positions. So these three, the GSI coordinator, paralegal, and the confidential secretary, those are all union positions?
So, no, they are not. They are all non-union positions. One position will fall into the building and engineering department, one position will be in the corporate counsel department, and one position will be in the HR department.
But they're under your budget, HR?
No,
They are not.
no. This presentation was about staffing as a
Yeah,
whole
we haven't
for
went
the
through the budget
city,
yet.
not just the staffing for the HR department. I'm up next.
Yeah,
Now-
so
now
each one of these,
66
Councilman, each one of these,
Scott, 66 new employees hired, you said, right?
So positions filled, yes, staff
66.
hired.
How many of those are brand-new positions, newly created positions?
So I will have to dig into the deeper detail for that for you. I just gave you the ballpark. How many new people did we hire in the last year? How many people terminated?
I'd like to know how many of those are new positions, too.
Okay. For
Well,
the,
it should
for the
only be
hires?
3.
right? I'm sorry, wouldn't that only be three? You just told us the three new positions.
Okay,
Go.
sorry. We're mixing two different things. So I shared with you that what we're forecasting for the upcoming year, the 23-24 year, is to add three new positions.
He's asking about last year.
So what
Oh,
Mr. Wenzel's asking about is in terms of the people that we hired, how many of those hires were for newly created positions?
Okay, can we start the budget
Okay,
process?
so we're going to go ahead and start with the budget with Director Hazlitt in regards to human resources. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different budgets that we're going to go through today. So one thing we got to be careful with is, council members, is we got to stick to the budget part instead of having 8 discussions on just generic stuff.
Council Chair, but with respect to that, and I love that comment.
But
But I want you to know.
we can. I don't want to go, what I'm saying, let me explain myself. So for example, let's say police. We don't want to go into a deep dive, having a 2-hour conversation about the police
Sure,
department.
I agree, but you have to keep in mind, Council Chair, that we are elected, this is our main position. And with respect to the administration, thanks for their recommendation. But guess what? We approve this budget. We can interpret this budget how we would like to see
Correct,
it.
correct.
And so I want our colleagues here to know that today, that this is great, and, we're gonna follow the recommendations, but if there's something that you like or something that you wanna see, this is what we work to do. Like, this is our
Correct.
main position.
But what I'm
in
saying
council.
at the same time is we can't have a deep dive, like, for example, as you noticed earlier,
Contracts,
it went into the police discussion, and we're having a 25-minute discussion on just different things the police do, and that's just not a good idea during budget, because budget is primarily dollars and cents and numbers, that's all.
And to echo what you're saying, we'll be here all night, and I'm the worst offender, so yeah, I mean, we could.
So
We'll be here all night, we'll be here, you want to, I've been at
Excuse me.
meetings, old meetings,
So
where
on
we're here till like 1 in
April-
the morning.
So on April 13th, we will be talking about the police budget, and that was when you can actually start deep diving into the police. Today, I think we should just stick to what we had
That is the
agreed
plan.
on.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So
What page are we starting on?
we're starting on page 15 of 58. Human resources.
Yeah, Council Chair.
It's on page 15.
All right, Director, go ahead.
15. Go ahead.
And again, council members, write your questions on the side on a piece of paper, and as soon as the director is done, then we'll go ahead and ask whatever specific questions.
Okay, so for this budget, I'm looking for an increase in salary because I'm adding an FTE that, in terms of that confidential secretary, if I'm approved for that, this budget incorporates those costs. So you see the increase in the fringe benefits and the hospital insurance costs from one fiscal year to the next for adding a position in the department again, if the recommendation is accepted. And then in contracted services, there's an increase in contracted services. So contracted services, what I've really recognized has to do, the majority of this is labor relations in terms of negotiating contracts and working with the labor attorney to ensure that we are negotiating correctly and crafting good language for both sides of the equation. Also, this is where I house dollars for employee training. So in the 22-23 year, I was able to do a leadership development retreat training for the directors and the leadership of the city. And then in the late spring, I was able to start some customer service training for our clerical staff. So I'm looking to have an opportunity to expand on that, and that's where the contracted services comes into play.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, so first question I have, I know there's also an upgrade in HR director's salary to be in line with the executive leadership. Can you tell me a little more about that, please?
Sure. This has to do with the scope of responsibilities. So as I have come into this position, what I thought the position was going to be when I was hired and what has actually turned out to be are two different things. So I find that I am also providing help and support at an executive leadership level, coaching and counseling with the mayor's office and also with the leadership team, with the directors, and crafting things that have to do with organizational development and how we grow and mature. And so looking at the elevation of this position into an executive director from a director of HR,
And what's the numbers that you're looking to go from to?
from 75,000, which is the current salary for the position, to 90,000.
So you said 90?
Correct.
And then in addition to that, you said you're looking to have an additional HR specialist for 63,000?
No, the HR specialist is the current FTE. So right now, we have two positions in the HR department that are permanent full-time positions. You have the HR director and you have the HR specialist. And I've been trying to cobble with part-time people, some additional help that has been coming and going. And so really trying to assess what kind of help and support, what are the things that I'm constantly behind in terms of my ability to deliver quality customer service to the employees, thinking that a confidential secretary is the right next piece to help us be able to do that.
And that would be at 63,000 a year?
No, that would be at 55.
So you have yourself potentially going from 75 to 90, and you have another one at 55, which is a confidential secretary, correct?
Yes.
And then is there any additional personnel in your department? Would there be any additional personnel or that's it?
So there's still the HR specialist. So we
Okay.
would go from 2 positions in the HR department, 2 full-time positions in the HR department, to 3 full-time positions in the HR.
And how much is the HR specialist?
60,000.
Council Chair?
Go ahead, Council.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I just have a couple of questions. And thank you for your service and your work here. It means the world. But I remember last year that when we did this, in the past, when we budgeted for the individual that was working in the HR building or department, one of the things that we gave that raise was because it was said that, this individual here is going to work as if they're working for 2 people. And so that's why we are now paying somebody the $60,000 that we're paying. If you recall what happened last year's meeting. And so Mr. Saputo was explaining that the individual that's being paid $60,000, that bump from 35 to 60 was due to that he's going to be doing 2 people's positions, and there wasn't a need to have 3 people. This year, we're coming forward, and we're saying that you're doing more work, so we're bumping that up to 90. By that, we're bringing another HR secretary, confidential secretary, that's going to be at $55,000, but that's also not budgeting for, well, at least I don't see where we're budgeting for their benefits, their fringe benefits, their health insurance and things like that. So technically, it's more than $55,000. So
we have forecasted that in the budget, the
Okay,
increase
so
in the fringe benefits and the.
aside from the $55,000, how much is the
Yes.
fringe benefits on that?
I don't think I know that number off the top of my head.
Okay. Same goes for the one with the individual that works there now is at $60,000, including fringe benefits. I know we've had these discussions before that when we're comparing different municipalities, we are more competitive, like in the police department, because we're offering fringe benefits, we're offering Public Act 345. And so this kind of sits the same narrative. And if you're looking here, this jumped up, the budget here jumped up.
Yes.
161,000.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's a lot of money to me, in my opinion.
Okay.
Director Hazlett, I know Councilman Wenzel had asked for that, and I know previous council members had asked for that in the past, which is the breakdown of the salaries in the budget. Because when we see things like salaries here, right now, we asked you to break down, then it clarified it a little bit more. But when we go to projected activity in 2022-23 of 135,000 salaries under human resources, and then you go to the recommended budget of 221,000, which right now you've clarified as to why the additional help that you're looking for. It's much easier when we have a breakdown of the salaries provided legally that can be done. And as I understand, it can be done legally, unless I'm wrong. Per department would make it so much easier to be able to make a decision, because when you see them lumped up, whether it's 400,000, 600,000, or $1 million, I don't know, it's hard to determine based on the projected recommended budget that you're recommending, why we need to go that much higher, or maybe in some cases lower.
Council Chair?
Yes.
Also, Mrs. Hazlett, we also in the past I think for as long as I always looked at the budget, it always gave a breakdown of specific employee, it could be the HR director, this much.
And that's what I'm referencing.
Yes, and it was always in our budget. I know last year they gave it towards the end, but I mean, I don't know how much it changed from last year. I believe Mariana gave it to us towards the end. So if we have the same thing, and if you just have to make some adjustments on that, just make the few adjustments and send it right back to us.
And if privacy is an issue, I mean, I don't think anybody here would have a problem with just naming the specific position. Is
No,
that
it's a
correct?
position. We're not asking for.
Yeah, we don't need the name of the person.
I
Right.
gave you in the PowerPoint presentation, positions and the amounts.
No, but that wasn't specified. You put
They
leadership.
were a range.
61 to 90. I mean,
That's correct. So you want exact for
Correct.
individual? That's not a problem. We can do that.
Yeah, at least position, if it's
it's
not
by position,
appropriate
we
to put
can do that.
names, just the position.
Council Chair, we
That's fine.
never put names in the past anyways.
Right.
It was always positions.
Right.
Council Chair?
I do want to reiterate one thing, though, if I can, and that is that most people work to live. However, our administration support here, we live to work. We are on call all the time, 6 to 7 days a week.
Like
And
our
we are
DPW
here a
department.
lot, 12-hour days.
Firefighters,
And we get
police.
paid, yes, sir,
Council
you're
Chair, you
right,
gotta, I
the
mean,
fire and the
you gotta,
police.
Councilman,
are
let
right.
her
her
finish,
finish, please.
Come on, Tom. I mean, look, come on.
You're absolutely right. The fire and the police and the DPW supervisors, I agree with you, Mr. Wenzel. However, they are hourly, okay? They do get paid for their extra time. We do not. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay,
We're here because we love our job and we want to make a difference.
sure, absolutely.
Council Chair?
Councilman.
Okay. The HR specialist, that person was employed in 2022, correct?
No.
So this position, yes, last fiscal year. This is not a new
Does he
job.
get, is
This
that person
the-
getting an increase in salary?
No.
So it's the same salary for that?
I did recommend a 5% increase for all salaries, but again, that is on the table and that is something that we could discuss. It is not something that has to happen. I just thought due to inflation, I put a 5% increase in there for all.
Okay.
And I just put it in as a placeholder.
The comparable entities, the cities, can we get a list of what cities you used? For the comparable entities?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've got all that
yeah.
information and I can send that to you.
And one other thing is, anytime we refer to the police salaries, the fire salaries, DPW salaries, all the hourly employee salaries, and say, yeah, and this is, stated by HR all the time, they are low, but their benefit package is outstanding. So, all these other positions that aren't hourly, they can't just go up high because they're getting the exact same benefit package as everyone. So you got to be even. You can't say, well, we can't pay you guys, but we're going to pay you the lowest in this area, but you're getting a good benefit package. And we can't say to all the salary people, we're going to pay you a comparable, plus you get the same benefit package. We have to be fair on this.
So, point well noted, Mr. Wenzel. You'll also note that in the collective bargaining agreements that I've negotiated thus far, there have been wage increases. We recognize that that's an issue across the city, and to the degree that we're able to work that out at the table, we've been trying to address it.
Well, yeah, let's do the same with everyone. Let's give them a little bit at a time.
Oh, it's okay.
That's what I'm saying. Let's be fair about this, across the board.
So the police supervisors that we did just negotiate got 13%.
Well, yeah, that's.
And so
don't-
did the
don't get
dispatch
me-
went up.
Don't get me started on that contract.
Okay.
Okay. I would like to say, and I've said it many times in the past, I know with the presentation we had earlier, my belief has always been to be a market leader, to bring the best, the most skilled at every position, you got to pay better. If we have to lower the fringe benefits a little bit and then raise the salaries up front, that's what's going to attract people. I just find everybody gets attracted to the initial salary. So, but I'm always going to be a believer in being a market. I do this in my business, and I believe in it in City Hall. You got to pay people a little bit better. That's how you get skilled positions. That's how people stay and don't leave. And I think in our police department, that's been also one of the issues is the lower pay.
Council Chair.
Okay.
Councilman Clark.
I definitely agree with you, and I don't want to get in the back and forth discussion, but in this last year, we only gave our union employees a 1% raise and said that's all we can afford. So, I mean, if we want to be equal and want to be fair, we need to be fair across the board here.
I agree.
So if, you know, I'm being told that we can't afford to pay anybody these big raises, then it should be equal across the board.
Council Chair, just again, to echo what you've said before, and we're just getting started, so everybody's got their comments, maybe about 11:30. People will hurry up, but there'll be a time later, won't they, when we do the final review to say,
Right.
you know, hey, this, that, you know, this is, and I started it.
Council Chair.
Okay. Councilman, go ahead.
I just have a question about the fringe benefit. How come it's going down from 52,000 to 18,000? Can you explain that for me, please?
No, I can't.
Okay, the fringe benefits has been changed this year because now it's just going to include FICA. And then we broke down the pension because last year the fringe benefit pension was included in fringe benefit account. And now we broke it down into pension account only. So you'll see a pension, new account under there, and that's where you'll see the big difference.
So that's going to be under pension, not here?
That's correct.
So, sorry. So if you look at page 15, okay, so if you go about halfway down and you see general government pen, see that label? Okay, and then look all the way across, and you see a dollar amount in the recommended budget for 23-24 line, and you see that there was nothing in there in the 22-23 line. And then if you go down to the next line, it says fringe benefit. So if you take the 40,000 and the 18,000, that the pension that was broken out, and add it to the fringe benefits, you're still at 58. So that's why you're seeing that
Yeah.
difference.
Okay. We all set?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Director Haslett, the contractual services, based on the amended budget for 22-23 and the travel education, respectively being at 65,000 for one, and then the new ask is 123,000. Do you know why it's such a big jump?
Yes, so part of that is, again, contracted services was the majority of the labor attorney, and we still have contracts to negotiate. We're probably going to hit that number. So the increase in contracted services was twofold. One was to have resources to continue to provide training and contract with a trainer, facilitator, professional to provide that ongoing development for our staff. And then I think that was really it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I have two other budgets to go over with you.
Right, go ahead.
Council Chair, real quick question. Can you give us at the end of each department the percentage decreased or increased for that budget?
They did on the slideshow. They'll probably
No,
give it back to you.
No, as we go through the budgets. So your department, HR, was it decreased by so much or increased by so much?
Increased.
By what percentage?
I'm sorry, I don't have that number off the top of my head. It was in the presentation.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to take, Councilman, you got the projected activity for 2022-23 is 321,000, and the recommended budget is 482,000. So
That's
the
161, 161,
Yeah, whatever that is,
329.
that's the difference.
Well, what percentage is that, though? I mean, I don't want
You
to do all
divide
this.
that, by the 321, that will give you the percentage of
Yeah.
increase.
PowerPoint, it's in your PowerPoint. Can you just pull it up?
It'll multiply.
But what you would, but I see what you're saying, Councilman, you'd like to,
Okay.
instead of having to calculate it, you'd like to see it in
Yeah.
actual raw numbers. I agree.
This, like, after every budget, this budget was decreased by 10%, or this budget was increased by 50% or something.
Yeah, I
Just So
agree.
we know where.
I
where
did
our
do
money-
that on the PowerPoint presentation.
She did that on the
For
PowerPoint.
each department. If you want me to pull that up, I would gladly do that.
Well, you're going to send that to us, right?
I am definitely going to send
All
it
right.
to you. And also, just for clarification, that 5% was across the board for all, not just the non-union administration. And we are not in negotiations yet. As I said, I just put that as a placeholder.
Okay, let's go ahead and start with
0.5%.
civil service.
Okay,
What page are we on?
Page
So
4 of 9.
no, it's on page 12.
Well, at least on the page that was emailed to us, page 4, but in the booklet,
It's page 12?
yeah, the booklet is different. You guys changed it on us between the emails and the actual booklet. All right,
Which one?
Page 12.
page 12. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is the Civil Service Commission. So this is the process for full-time
12.
positions that don't fall under the public safety. Public safety is your fire and police. So in the city of Dearborn Heights, we have two civil service commissions, one for general government and the other for public safety. So this is the Civil Service Commission. So we compensate the commissioners for serving. And then what you really have in terms of the professional and contracted services, that's what we use for all of our testing costs. So again, part of the civil service process is administering tests to our candidates. And then we also use that for marketing in terms of attending job fairs and other things that we're trying to do to promote employment opportunities in the city. And you will see that there is a decrease in that budget from last year to this year. I talked with the comptroller, not sure that all of our appropriate expenses have been charged there. I'm confident that I've spent more than $1,000 on testing and job fairs and recruitment efforts for those positions, so we're going to look into that, but that's part of why you see the reduction there.
Okay, Director, so so on that one, that kind of confused me, because I know you just mentioned it again. If we have the projected activity for 22, 23, because obviously our budget year is not over until the end of June. So with that being the case, we have it at 9,127, but then the recommended budget is 17,638. How is that a decrease?
That's,
15,000. So the budget for 22-23 total was 26,938, and the budget amount projected for 23-24 is 17,638.
No, but, right, no, I see that part. But
Okay.
what I'm saying is on the projected activity, the actual, because the amended budget in 22, 23 was 26,000, but the actual amount spent was 9,000.
6,000 so far.
That was the prior year. That was the 21-22 year.
No, I'm looking right at 2022, 23 projected activity, which is 9,127.
Right here. He's looking at projected activity that we're assuming that we're going to spend for the year.
Because the 6,000 is just partial year, that's not the full year.
That's
Correct.
The projected activity through the full year is 9,000, and then the recommended budget is 17,000. And what I'm asking is, yes, that's lower than the amended budget, but what I'm saying is, it's irrelevant what the amended budget was. What was more relevant is what actually was spent this year. That's more accurate. And with that being the case, being 9,127, or at least projected to be spent 9,000, how is it a decrease? It'd still be an increase, based on that, at least. Do you see what I'm saying, or no? I'm just saying it's not a decrease. That's all I'm basically saying.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Okay.
All right, we're good.
And
Any
then,
other questions for civil service?
No.
None?
okay.
Oh, go ahead.
And then the other civil service budget that we have is for Act 78, and this is for our public safety, for our fire and
What
police.
page is that on?
That's on page 13.
No, I'm sorry, before we move on, just civil service, what's that 10,000 for? Professional what?
So that's for professional and contracted services. So that's where we charge our testing. So we have to test all of our candidates and also any of the marketing that we're doing in terms of attending job fairs, or sometimes to have one of our positions be at the top of Indeed. You know, we pay a little fee for that as opposed to the free way to do it. So. Okay. And then Act 78 Commission, again, this is for public safety, this is for fire and police, very similar to the other. We have commissioners who serve on there, so we have commissioner fees for that, and then the professional and contracted services we're using for the same thing, for the testing costs associated for new hires and promotions, and then also for job fairs and for recruitment activities.
But when don't they have attorneys that will be paid? Act 345, don't they have?
Oh, I'm sorry, this is Act 78.
Okay,
This is
I
this
thought
public.
345, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So, Director, I had a question for you. They have on here background checks, and they have it as a new budget item at 25,000, recommended budget. The question I have, I'd like to presume that there was always some sort of background checks. Why is that a new thing?
Council Chair, maybe I can help answer this. I know we had some back and forth last year. We are now budgeting for it to go to a third party, is what David Sepulveda told us last year. That 25,000, I believe, was the same thing as last year.
No, it wasn't on there last year.
That's for you, Cindy.
I believe it was. I think this might be a typo or a mistake, but. No, we did it actually, it was 2 years ago. We did it last year. We contracted it out as well. I actually compared this budget to last year's budget, Council Chair, and it was actually on there. Because I
Yes.
asked the question last year. I think that's a mistake on their end.
We budgeted 50,000 last year for professional contracted services, and there was a footnote of $25,000 that was going to be using for testing.
Okay, so then if that's the case, then this budget should be amended, not amended, but just corrected to have the amended budget. If that was on there last year, then it should be under the 2022-23 amended budget.
No.
The footnote is just stating that out of the 50,000 for contracted services,
Correct.
we are saying 25,000 of that is for background testing. It's just a footnote.
Council Chair, how many background checks do you do? Is this just for the Act 78 Commission?
Correct.
There's only, how is there, two?
No, this is not background checks for the commission. This is the background check that we do for public safety positions.
No, not for the commission themselves.
So
No,
for
no.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
No, not-
and for
This is for all the police applicants and fire applicants?
Yeah.
Is that what this is?
So the comptroller is just making a footnote here. It's still 50,000.
Yeah.
Just making a footnote to say 25 for
25
testing, 25 for background
For
checks.
background checks of.
I'm not
of-
sure why.
Of every public safety person, or is it's for all of them, right? Combined?
So, two different things. So because this is Act 78 for public safety, then this is the background checks that we do for public safety positions for fire and police.
Okay.
In addition, we also do background checks for general government employees, and that's under your contracted services for the General Civil Service Commission.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
That's one, Rachel, you were asking about.
Yeah.
that's it.
Any,
Okay.
any idea how come the fee, the commissioner's fees went down from, actually is gonna go down from 2,775 to 2,500? I know it was, the budget was 2,500 last year, but now the projected activity is 2,775,
Go ahead.
first line.
The projected activity was 2,775. We brought it down to 2,500 based on the activity that they've been using so far. So we assumed that they had requested 2,500 last year. 2,500 seems to be reasonable. I don't think that they needed 2,775 when they've only used 1,850 through the end of March.
Didn't one of the commissioners resign or was fired?
So we still have 3 commissioners that are
You got
serving
the
on
budget
there.
for it.
Okay. Any other questions on Act 78? Okay, next up is pension. And that's on page,
Okay, I'm going to move so that the next person can come up. Yep, yep.
what page is that on, John?
It's Department 955,
32.
Okay, 32.
Yes, page 32.
I didn't see where it says pension. Oh, there it is.
Hello, Council. My name is John Riley. I'm a trustee on the 2 pension boards. I'm not a paid employee. The pension system has 2 executive level part-time employees that work between the 2 pension systems. We didn't have a pension administrator. We hired a new pension administrator. Her first day was today. And rather than putting her in the hot seat on the first day, I'm sitting before you today with the pension budgets. The 2 pension employees are sitting in the back. We have Lori Kupchak, who is the new elected not elected, the new appointed pension administrator at a part-time. And then Mickey is the retirement specialist, and they work between both systems.
You guys chose Mickey?
Mickey's been with us a while.
And John is volunteering his time again for this, so thank you.
Thank you, John.
I don't know if anybody knows more about it than Mr. White. We were there.
Yeah.
Other than John Riley.
No. So, on that particular page, do you want me to go through line by line?
Yes,
or do you
please.
want-
Yeah,
okay.
give us a general outline.
Okay, so, basically, you can see the, part-time salary line went down, okay, from, 43,750 to 24,000. That's, based on, last year when the budget was prepared, the, budget preparer put one employee in this pension and one in the 345. What the employees do is when they work on one pension system, when they input their time, part-time time, they would put it into either the 345 or the general government. So the budget is set up where two-thirds of the work is pretty much into the police and fire 345 area, and one-third is general government, mainly because the system isn't as complicated as the police and fire. It doesn't have a drop system, it doesn't have an annuity withdrawal. It's a simpler plan. And so normally the workflow is basically two-thirds police and fire, one-third general government. So that is the reason. I have a breakdown, a sheet for that, if you'd like me to hand that out. But if you have any more questions.
I would like that, please.
Okay, yeah,
It can be after, that's fine.
okay. All right, the next line item is the commission fees. The recording secretary for the general government pension is the city clerk, Lincinia. She's been doing that probably for 10 or more years. So that's her commission fees for doing the recording secretary duties. The next line item is the fringe benefits, which is basically the Social Security tax. Neither of the employees of the pension system, they're both part-time. There's no health care, there's no pension or any other benefits that are afforded to them, okay? Further on down, we have the supplies. The next item, we have our membership dues. There's two groups that we belong to, which is the MAPERS, the Michigan Association of Public Employee Retirement Systems, and the NCPERS, which is the national group. We use them for educational purposes. And then the line of, the big line is the professional and consultant. Were you supplied with the detail of that particular line item? Okay, I could hand that out also, and we could go through those if you'd like me to go through that in more detail.
Can you explain that a little bit more for me?
The professional consultant?
Correct.
Well, I can hand out the backup. If you, send these here. And I can explain it. Oh,
And John, not to interrupt you, but so like regarding investments and stuff, they get a commission. So
right.
they're-
So the professional consultants, and I don't know if I kept one, I may have, oh, no, I
Here.
did keep one, yeah. Okay. If you flip over onto page 2, when you get the handout, it'll give you a detailed breakdown of the professional and consultant line item. If you flip over to page 2, it'll be the first column, and that particular column totals the $220,000, okay? And like Councilman Constant said, the top people at the top of this, Madison Investments, Sylvan, Ball and Gaynor, Loomis Sales, Reinhardt, and Brandywine are all our investment managers. They are paid to invest our funds for us. They are fiduciaries to the pension system, okay? And so we pay them based on the amount of money that they are investing for us,
Okay, thank you.
okay?
So that 30,000, for example, for Sylvan, is that in addition to their commission or?
That's what they make for managing our investment fund, our
So
investment.
that is their commission?
Yes.
I got you.
Most of, like, if you have a mutual fund, your mutual fund is paying an expense.
Yeah.
What we do is we pay it hard dollar, and they don't take any money out of the investment earnings. We pay the hard dollar
So
for that.
they don't work on a percentage, they work on a
Right.
flat fee,
That's right.
Okay.
which
Okay.
is pretty good.
Yeah,
Much
and
better, yeah.
then we net that out when we're evaluating their returns by saying we've paid them this much, and we lower their investment returns over what we've paid them. So if we want to further go down that list, you'll see there's a company called Foster and Foster. That's the actuary that does our annual valuations. And they do GASB 67, 68 for the auditors that are included in your annual financial statements. Further down, we have Morgan Stanley. They're the our investment consultant who oversees our money managers and monitors their performance and assists us with giving the overall pension returns quarterly, or he's at our meetings monthly, and he also helps us find new investment managers should somebody be underperforming. Comerica Bank is our custodial bank. All of our funds are deposited there. They are not in the control of the city treasurer. They're in the control of the pension board at Comerica Bank in a trust account. Okay? And then I think this goes to Councilman Muscat. Van Overbeek's law firm is the law firm of the pension system. Okay? And that's that $16,000 budgeted there, if you see. And then we have fiduciary liability insurance, and then just a miscellaneous. And that what makes up the largest line item in the general government budget. Okay. And then obviously, if you look to the right, you'll see all of the history going back to 2017. We can go back till 1990, if we wanted, but we kind of limited it.
John, thank you.
You're welcome. Is there any other questions on the general government?
No, I believe you said you had one more handout to hand us?
Yes, I can do that now.
What's the travel and education for?
Travel and education is for our trustees to attend conferences by either MAPERS or NCPERS to educate. So we have some trustees that are elected by the employees, like we have a gentleman or trustee from the court. He has no investment, or actuarial background, and so they go to these educational seminars. As a fiduciary on the pension system, our responsibility is kind of even greater than the city council in the sense that we can be sued personally for decisions that we make if they are not done on a prudent basis. And so it's to our best interest to educate ourselves to make sure that we're making proper decisions as it relates to the pension system. We do not have governmental immunity being trustees on the pension system, so educating ourselves is a very important factor of that, because we're, again, managing the money.
I see there isn't any activity, so.
So there is, when we spoke with the city controller, they're going to do a budget amendment because we do have somebody who's attending a conference later this month of May, and that was part of the discussion of budget amendments that need to be made. We did request money, but it was taken out last year. But this year, they agreed that there would be a budget amendment put forward to the city council, and that one of our trustees will be attending a MAPERS conference later in the month of May, or in
Now, do you ever attend?
I do attend.
Okay, so.
Yes, I do.
That's got to be charged also.
Yeah. Normally, it's charged to the 345 education
Okay,
system,
all right.
but yes.
All right. Want to make sure that everybody gets compensated for their time.
Yes, sir. And that's not paid to attend the conference. That's to the conference.
Yeah, he's also volunteering.
Travel
Yeah,
expenses.
it's
Well, I know you're a
expenses.
volunteer, but what about the person, it's all volunteer then?
All of the trustees are non-paid, yes. But we do attend conferences to educate ourselves so that when we're making proper decisions under a prudent person.
That's a good gamble.
But is $5,000 enough when you go somewhere, and I don't know if you have to spend a night, meals
Yeah.
and everything like that?
Yeah, normally the conferences, they're set up by MAPERS, like I think this one is coming up, is out in Kalamazoo. They set it up, it's at a hotel, a couple, $100 a night at the hotel, traveled out there, and then the conference might be $200 or $300.
But, you got to pay for meals and all, is that?
Well, that's all,
that
comes
enough?
with the conference.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Thank you.
Yes. So that, if you want to look at the handout that Margaret handed out, the top line item is the pension administrator. Again, it's a part-time, so it's capped out at 28 hours a week, 52 weeks. The rate is actually, the new hire is at $35 an hour, but we figure that after a year, there will be a review. So when we put this in, we put it at 37 and a half. okay, when we're preparing the budget, that there may be an increase after a 1 year and then it's split 1/3 to general government. GG is general government, the other one is 345, so that annual pay would be split between the two. So if you add up the pension administrator and the retirement specialist, you would come up with 23,000, and in the general government, we have budgeted 24,000. So that, that's how that came up. And so here, this would be, and then when I go over next, the police and fire, it'll be at 60,000. You can see this here came up to 50 now and 878. So just kind of rounding up there. Okay, so we'll go to the police and fire, or are we done with the general government? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and go, any other questions on this one?
I'm good.
Okay, you go ahead and go to the next.
That's the next page. Flip back for one more page. Yeah, right there.
Page 7, that's elections,
Oh, it
no.
should be this one here.
33.
Page 33 now.
33, okay. Okay. All right, so basically, this is a very small budget, and then I'll go into. So this is you see the salary of 60,000 that we just went through. The fringe benefits, which is the Social Security or the FICA tax for the part-time employee, and then we have some room for supplies. And so it comes out to 65,000. The city, for the pension system, monitors the payroll for the police and fire system. The pension system reimburses the city, and we're scheduled to reimburse the city 80,000. It would be the 65,000 that you see on this budget, plus an estimated $15,000 for the comptroller's office to handle what we call the P-19s, or the payroll records that's used for the pension valuations, or for when somebody retires or something like that. So then the pension system reimburses the city $80,000, which is budgeted. We can look at that next. Or that is on, page 1 of 58.
Oh, so you're looking at revenue.
Now I'm looking at the revenue from the city. So you can see that the city will then be reimbursed for that, and that's on page 1 of 58. Line 101-000-580-966.
What, say that again for me, 101?
000-580-966.
One.
And that's contribution from Act 345. And you'll see the 80,000.
John, on the net revenues appropriations, Fund 101, the projected activity is at 7,700,000 some change. But then the recommended budget is 932,000. It's a drastic drop. What's the purpose for that?
Where is,
I'm on page 33.
Are you going back?
this is the last budget line item. So this is, I think, a composite of all of your budgeted items, and not just the police and fire. The police and fire pension ends at the 65,000. Then I think that summarizes some of the total budget activity, and not as related to our department at all,
Okay.
if you see what I mean. So, Councilman, our lines end at the 65,000. Then I think the next line, total appropriations, is your budget in whole. This just happens to be the last department in the budget before the whole general fund budget is summarized, if that makes sense.
But there's still a huge drop. Do you know why that is?
Well, that would be for the comptroller, not for me.
Okay.
Because that relates to all the city activity, not the police and fire
Okay.
pension.
Comptroller, you want to answer that then?
I'm looking at it right now, and I can give you an answer. Let me see. You're on page 58, right?
I got one more handout while she's looking that up.
What page were you on? I saw that. What page was that?
Oh, that was that one we were just looking at, the last one. He's back on page,
34.
wait a second, yeah. See, I think he's asking about these summary line items. I'll do that for we end here, and this goes into the total budget, which I can't answer the total budget items, yeah.
Excuse me 1 minute.
Yes, sir. This, after the controller is able to answer your
And if
question.
you don't have the answer right now, Controller,
I do not have the answer.
that's
right
fine.
now.
If you don't mind just giving us, just giving us a general outline, emailing it to all of us, if you don't mind,
Okay.
that'd be fine. Thank you.
Okay. Now I'm on page 8 of 58. The account is 101-200-722,
8 of 50, okay.
and that's 345 expenditures. These are, is money that is collected through the levy to cover the expenditures of the police and fire pension system as a budget approved by the board. That budget is outlined in the handout that I just gave you, and if you look at the top in that far left column.
Wait, sorry, I don't know where you're
Okay.
looking at. You said
Wait,
Act 345 expenditures,
do
you
you
said?
do you see that? It's on page 8 of 58,
Right.
line 101-200-722.001.
Got it. Okay, I see
Or
it.
000.
I see it.
And is 722,634. Do you see that, Councilman?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now go to the handout that was just passed out here. And if you go to that first far left column, you see the 722,634. Okay, the top is professional consultant fees. We'll come back to that. It's detailed lower down on the spreadsheet. You see the,
Page 8.
you see the 80,000 commission that's reimbursed to the city for taking care of the employees of the pension system. And then there is travel and education. It's budgeted at 10,000, dues and membership at 500,000, and then office supplies at 400. And then the breakdown of the professional consultant is further down the page on the handout that you received. And again, it's the majority of that is our investment consultants. This particular fund is around 175 million now, and so the amount that we pay for professional consultants is higher than it is under the general system, because the general system is in the 38 million dollar range. And so that's the reason why the professional consultant under the police and fire is greater than the general government. And so we can go, we have in the middle page of this here, is our investment managers. Comerica Bank is the custodial bank. They're at 34,000. You see Gabriel Rhoda Smith, they're the actuary who does the annual valuation, calculating the city's contribution for the pension along with the retirees' retirement benefit. Does the GASB. Loomis Sales, an investment manager. Morgan Stanley is our consultant. Columbus Circle is an investment manager, and most of them are investors. And at the bottom of that, you'll see Van Overbeek, Michaud and Timoney. That's the legal counsel for the pension board. And so that calculates to 631,000, which goes up again to this top area.
There's a lot more to this than meets the eye.
There was a lot, yeah.
A lot more than
Council
meets
Chair,
the
thank you.
eye. You wonder where 631 goes, and
Mr.
you
Riley?
gotta have people taking care of this stuff, man.
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned the 80,000 that's paid to the city, and you said for handling the employees. What does that mean?
Well, the pension system doesn't have a payroll department, and so the city, has a payroll department. So they're handling the payroll for our two employees, and for doing that, the city doesn't pay for the employees. They get reimbursed from the pension system for that. So they're paying the employees through the payroll department through a city check, but then we're reimbursing them that 65 plus 15 to do the P19s.
Okay, so that's the salary?
Yeah, it's the salary
Okay, the
that's
salary, it's
getting-
not just a fee for writing checks. It's-
Right.
It's the salary, okay.
It's the salary,
Yeah.
So that, I
Yeah.
guess I get back to me,
Yeah.
then you're retired from the fire department? Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, and
We're missing it.
do you have a calculation on, off the top of your head, the amount of fees we pay, the 631,000 compared to the money we earn?
Well, yeah, like I said, we review our investment managers' returns net of the fees. And so what we're doing is we're looking at them as opposed to the type of investment that they're managing and netting out the fees from their investment returns, like you would see in a mutual fund, it's netted out the fees that you pay, and we're comparing them with benchmarks. And so, so what we want to do is make sure that the managers are meeting the necessary benchmarks or exceeding them, and if they don't, then we start looking for new consultants.
That's my next question.
Yes.
Has that happened?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely so.
So
Thank you.
John, is there any advantage to having so many consultants? Because it seems to me fairly similar to a
No,
situation.
they're not consultants. They're investment managers, and each of them have different investment styles. So some of them may be large cap growth investors, some might be large cap value, mid cap growth, mid cap value, international
And I
investors.
know there's diversifying, but
Right.
at the same time,
Well,
I don't know, it seems to be much easier, much more manageable if you had much less.
No, well, we believe that the diversification, and then you have specialties in each of those areas, rather than, one person who's trying to do all of that. We want to specialize in those particular areas. Somebody who's doing real estate, only does real estate, it's not thinking about international equities or international debt. And so we hire specific managers that have expertise in that area.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from council members on this? Okay.
Thank you very much. It was
Thank you
nice
very
to see
much.
everybody.
Nice
John,
seeing
good to see you again.
Mr. Riley.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our former,
Thanks to you guys back there. You guys do a great job.
thank you to both of you guys also.
Pensions are so important in our lives today.
Those of us who can.
And I thank
don't know
you,
what we do without 'em.
and I thank John as our former treasurer for continuing to volunteer on this. I really appreciate
And I
it.
appreciate you appointing me and keeping me on the board, and if you ever have any questions, or if you want the actuaries to come before you, or the investment consultants or somebody, please let us know and we can accommodate you. I mean, that's
Okay.
why you guys appoint me, and we respond to you.
Well, one thing for sure, we've never gone broke with you guys at the helm.
Thank God.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you again.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you. I don't blame you.
Do you want me to
What's for
answer
dinner?
you regarding the appropriation totals?
If you have an answer,
I
yeah.
can explain to you what is going on here. What you're looking at is your actual total expenses for the year, for the budget.
What page
So
are we
the
looking at?
33. He had asked about the total appropriations. So the total for the recommended budget is $58,753,246. That is our total expenses. If you minus that from your revenue, then you're going to end up with $932,000 in the black, because we have more revenue than we have expenses. So what were you asking? Were you asking me about the last year's
So
budget?
based on that number, yeah, last
Okay.
year projected activity, 7.7 million plus.
Okay, okay.
Under projected activity.
Yes, that is your 7.7, which was our ARPA funds that we had moved. So the projected activity, the 7.7, is the ARPA funds that were moved over to fund balance.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Mayor's Office, and we have Chief of Staff, Mariana Hernandez, and the Mayor's Office is on page 6.
Good afternoon.
afternoon.
Mariana Hernandez. There are pretty much no changes in the mayor's office. You will see a slight bump in the mayor's department. As you well know, every elected official gets salary increases based on the
Salary commission.
on the commission, and you're due for an increase this December. That's inclusive of the mayor, so you'll see a.
But that's got to be voted on, correct?
It was already
already
voted
voted
on.
on.
It's
Voted and
always
approved.
voted on a 2-year basis.
Yeah.
So again, everyone is due for a salary increase this December. Other than that, our numbers are pretty consistent with what we've had in the past.
I had a question in regards to the part-time. Part-time dropped quite a bit, and I assume, would that be the front desk person?
No.
Okay, so that dropped quite a bit from the amended budget to the projected activity from 56 to 19, but then now we're back up to 56. Do you know why there's that much of a difference?
We haven't filled our part-time position. We were trying to be conservative this year because we knew that we were going to need extra help in the controller's department. So we were trying to be frugal and save a little bit of money where we could.
And who?
But typically that's filled out by a part-time position. It's one of those 20 hours or 28 tops per year. And they are a secretarial $15 an hour assistant that typically helps us with event planning, marketing, answering calls for residents. We are planning on hiring one right now because it picks up on events and various activities that we do in the summer. So we're going to need the extra help coming up soon.
If everybody in there is salary, why do we even have overtime listed?
Good question. Good question. I don't think we've touched
Well,
it.
I know nothing's been used, but we should even strike that out.
Yep.
Strike that 1,000 out because it's salary positions.
Council Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Councilman.
It doesn't, so, in the past, I'm not sure if it was yourself, your position, but it was half ordinance, half. In other words, there was a full-time person so that person could be hourly, correct?
That person is,
Your secretary.
HR left. So
But I'm
she's an
just-
executive secretary. She's exempt from the union, so she's not a union employee.
Yeah, so it's $1,000 we could,
No, it's well, you take it off this budget here.
whatever, I'll defer to Ray.
And yes, she is still divided between the ordinance department and the mayor's office.
Okay, any other questions on the mayor's department?
Council Chair,
Go ahead.
Mariana, what's the last line? What does that for?
Community activities. That is if the mayor ever chooses to do an event for the entire community or the city decides to do an event for the entire community that require any type of supplies. For example, I know in the past, we've had some water filters giveaway days that the county would provide for us. So whatever marketing material, staffing, et cetera, that we would need for that, that's what that salary is there for. We never know what we're going to need. We never know what emergencies are coming, so we're just keeping it there just in case.
Can I take it, you split the fringe benefit to 2 lines now? Fringe benefit and I don't know if this is stand for government pension maybe?
Yes.
The 63 and the 24. Thank you.
One question, Council Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mariana, so much for being here. My question is going to be that I'm going to ask to every department head. I know last year you gave me the breakdown with Mr. Saputo of every employee and what their pay was. It shouldn't have changed from last year because nothing has been approved, so bless you. So can you send us the same thing that you sent us last year? And if there are any adjustments, adjust those and send us so that we know what was adjusted from last year?
So HR and the controller will work on that. It's their responsibility to provide that information.
Okay, so then, are the 5% salary increase on this here as well?
That is, that's correct.
Okay.
Mariana, without naming a specific person, but the social media gentleman,
Does not get paid out of the mayor's budget.
where does he get paid out of?
We'll get to it when we get to it, but cable.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? All right, next up is City Council, page 4.
You want me to get up and speak on our behalf?
So I guess, Controller, you want me to present that, or just in general, we went through the budget in regards to City Council and spoke with the Controller and then assessed it line by line. There was nothing that I felt was absolutely needed as far as giving any type of increase on the city council budget. But I'll leave that up to you guys at this particular point to go ahead and
Council
discuss it.
Chair.
Councilman Muscat, go ahead.
The entire city has cell phones. And my cell phone is my personal cell phone, and it rings off the hook. I mean, I can't keep up with it. And I pay for that out of my direct pocket. And that's the way I communicate with the residents and City Hall. And I would think that City Council should have cell phones also with paid for, because that's an expense. I can't even deduct that off of my income tax. I can't deduct anything from my home on my income tax for computers, supplies, or anything like that associated with my job. And so cell phones is a big thing, and that, and we need, and I don't know if it was already purchased, but we need to have computers here. We are cutting down 4 million trees a year on our paperwork here, and we definitely need computers.
Duly noted, and I totally agree with you, and it is in the budget for use to get tablets. And
Well, I'm
as
talking
far
about
as
laptops, not
laptops, yes. And as far as phones, yes, I totally agree with you, and I will put that in to the IT department, because we all got cell phones, and I use my personal phone as well, and I was told that I really need to use a business phone in case we ever get FOIA, that they would
Correct.
take my personal phone.
Yeah, because my phone is subject
Yes.
now to FOIA, and it,
Yes, so I
Okay.
will definitely address that with IT and let you know.
But I just want to give you my little 2 cents worth. But do you really want to carry 2 phones at all
Yeah, if
I
times?
have to, yeah.
And you can deduct it against,
I mean, it's up to you. I'm just throwing it out there. One of the things that you can do is just use a different phone number on your phone. This way you'll know if it's city-related or
But I
not.
still can FOIA your phone then.
No, they'd only be able to FOIA the one that, like, for example, Google Voice phone number. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, but I mean, they're gonna take my phone and go through it. Who knows what they go through? So I would think you separate the two. I keep my own personal cell phone and,
On Google Voice, everything is documented via email, but it's up to you guys.
Council Chair.
Go ahead, Councilman Bedouin first.
I'm not gonna steal his thunder. I'm gonna let him go ahead, because, well, okay, I'm just gonna echo a few things as Council Pro Tem Muscat stated. I know that, you know, when we last spoke with our IT director, he said that he had purchased those, so I don't know if that went through the IT budget or not. But
Yes.
I would also like to see some type of increase here on this, first, when it comes to supplies. Yeah, and stationary things. You know, I would like to see, I know, just looking at other municipalities, they have anywhere between $3,500 to $4,000 per council member. Not saying we're gonna spend that, but, you know, it should be nice to have it and not just have $500 for the entire year.
So would you like to increase that to
At least.
3,000?
No, I think 3,000 is a lot. But I
Okay.
think, you know, and just to have it there, I think
So-
1,000 or
Are you talking about
$1,500.
stationary
Okay,
in terms of
we can increase
just the
that.
letterhead?
I mean, it could be anything, like rent up pins that you want to order, supplies.
Envelopes with your name on.
I know, Council Chair, that anytime I needed something, I'd go to the clerk's office, and she's been more than willing to give me we call these yellow dogs, stationary.
Legal pads.
Legal pads. So,
Can I see that?
just
The yellow page.
Oh, yeah, I got one.
Nine papers.
you know, she's
Not, I
more than
got
happy to
extra.
get those. And as far as stationery goes, I think when I first got elected, we got a bunch of paper with our names on them.
Yeah, they still do.
So I don't know if you guys got those. I got a box
Okay,
full.
so then maybe that's why. Then that's something the clerk's office can help arrange. They'll give you a full box with your name,
Letterhead.
Yeah, with the letterhead on it right there.
And
You can-
envelopes.
well, our business cards cost money.
And plus,
And I
I
don't
think
have your business
all of our
cards.
business cards have our old email addresses on there as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
an updated new cards going across for everybody, I think is also necessary with potentially new phone numbers so that.
When we get if we get the phones, or when we get the phones, we can get all of that done through the clerk's office.
And we can charge it to your budget.
Yeah, and
No
we can do that now with,
I mean, and look,
Because we've got money in our budget to get all new cards, all of us right now.
correct.
Okay.
But also, like, if you're talking, like, the council chair is the only one
And
with a
new
laptop.
shoes.
Right? And it should
Pretty
say
ones.
that everybody is logged in here as well. Even though I know it shows us, but every single one of us should be logged in during a council meeting.
Okay, I'd like to move forward if we
Yeah.
But-
can.
Yeah.
Council Chair, quickly. So, and I'm asking you because I hope just took it out. Remember, we had a separate line item for legal fees?
Yes. Yeah.
It's gone?
No, there's still, I think it was like 35, no, it is gone.
It's gone.
It is gone.
We should
And if
actually,
you recall on that one, without getting into
Yeah.
opening up a can of worms,
We'll just
I'm
leave
gonna
it
try to
where
be
it
as nice
is.
as possible. For lack of better words, it wasn't needed.
Yeah, I agree.
I voted against it at the time, but
and the
let's move
council chair,
on.
but we don't know what the future they're going to.
Oh, gee.
But we have a corporation council
Should've
here
kept my mouth.
that in case there's any type of issue, we could go to them just in the event.
We can always
You could always
amend the budget.
subcontract. I'm sorry?
We can always
You
amend
could
the
always amend the
budget.
budget, but we could also hire, like, let's say, just hypothetically, let's say there's a whatever new issue and we feel we need our own attorney. We could change the budget and put in there $3,000 towards a specific attorney to handle us on something specific.
And just for, you know, and I swear to you, I love Roger. He's such an awesome individual. But me personally, if there's something going in front of council regarding an ordinance, I feel comfortable going in front of Roger. But if something needs to go amongst his body, which I hope we never have to forsake that, I would not feel comfortable going in front of Roger.
So at that point, that's exactly why, well, I shouldn't say why, I'm trying to
can
avoid the
go how.
history.
Yeah.
It was voted on, I was against it, but it was voted on to bring corporation council for the city council only. And how much was used, I think if anything, I don't know, we'd have to look it up, maybe a couple of $100. It was not used. So I'm just telling you, it's not as needed as you might think it is. But if you guys vote on this, it's up to you guys.
Look, the good news is Roger's doing a great job, and I think we're fine right now.
Okay,
Okay, so moving forward,
I
we're
agree.
going to start with corporate counsel.
go ahead.
Hold on, I think Councilman Ahmad had a question.
Oh, you had a question for city council?
The cell phones, does it go under our budget or the IT?
It would go under IT.
Council Chair,
Go ahead, Councilman.
earlier a director stated that this job is a lot harder and involves more than we thought, so can we get a 20% increase in our pay?
No, you guys knew how hard our job
At
was.
the end of
Duly
the
note
day,
that, Mr. Wenzel.
That's,
at the end,
that's a compensation.
after figuring out hours put in, time put in.
I have.
Headaches, et cetera, honestly, at the end of the day, we're basically volunteers.
Yeah.
You are. Council
Okay.
Chair, we're.
Next up,
Council
next
Chair,
up.
we're very nice, we're very, very hard-working volunteers.
That's what I'm saying.
365 days out of the year.
Yeah,
Swear to God.
for $10,000.
Page 10. I think we were up to 12.
So next up is page 10, Corporation Council.
Page 10.
Good afternoon.
Go ahead, good
Good
afternoon.
evening, actually.
And for those that are not familiar, that's Corporation Council, Roger Farinha.
Thank you, Council Chair.
10.
I think our budget is, well, self-explanatory. I would add, we have, since I've been 7 months, I've had a chance to look at more proactive programs to really maximize some of the talents we have. And that's what we're phasing into. Gary and I sat down today, and we would like to use our young attorney to do some of the work that he's doing, because I think that's something that, and he said it himself, he said, look, this is something we can train a young lawyer to do. We talked about, and I mentioned, I researched, even, for instance, setting up a civic foundation for the city, where we can have, sort of like what Royal Oak just passed, where we can have philanthropic money and fundraising for our different commissions put together and be used to help different projects within the city for safety, cultural opportunities, inspiring philanthropy from our residents. And he loved it. I think that's something that we can use, a talent that Gary brings to that area. Him and I also talked about putting together what's called the Infrastructure Trust, which the legal lawyers will put it together, but it would work on focusing private and public fundraising for infrastructure projects, such as our waters, our sewers, even Ecorse Creek. It would take, using, addressing a deteriorating public infrastructure using recapitalization and rehabilitation. It's a talent Gary has, and I like the corporate background that he brings. But working together, I think we can move forward. And that's one of the reasons I think the paralegal comes up, is because we have visions of not just, and I want to be clear, not taking money from the city to pay legal fees, our legal fees, but really how we can multiply it and apply it to really build proper legal foundations for the city to help our residents. And that's my focus. It's aggressive. I put in this budget, you had juvenile court. We ran into a little, problem with it only because we have, a lot of our schools are outside, or our students go outside the city. We have 3 schools in Inkster. We have schools D7 with Westland, a lot of different cities. It's hard for juvenile district court to handle that. So, however, I did put together a teen court program, which would allow each school to handle the discipline issues with more, with a court, a judge, a prosecutor, defense attorney, and get remedies right away to the students. We looked at an expungement day, because watching the system and how many cases people miss coming to court, we have files piling up. And people are afraid. They're afraid of either getting arrested, they're afraid of, maybe not handling the cost, but the judges are very, very, one of the best judges in the state of Michigan are in Dearborn Heights, 2 judges. And they really want to get people, look, come in and take care of your debt, take care of your case, get back out there, work with the Attorney General's office to do this. So an expungement day, an amnesty day, we're talking about proactive programs, and that's what I want to see done here. So I'm open for any questions you may have.
So, Roger, when you talk about an expungement day and amnesty day, first of all, I'm definitely a proponent of people, if you do the crime, you will do the time. I get that. But at the same time, I don't believe in people being punished for the rest of their lives, obviously, especially if it's somewhat of a minor offense. But with that being the case, so I like the idea, definitely. But with that being the case, are we talking about just locals only, or can somebody come in from another state? Because to me, I don't know honestly if as a council chair, I could say, where I want to spend money on somebody coming in from hypothetically Sterling Heights.
It would only apply to cases we have.
Cases we have, but even if the person.
Defaulted, but they're.
Right, so if the crime happened in Dearborn Heights, but what if the particular resident is out of, I don't know, Sterling Heights, let's say? We would
Right.
still have that for them?
Well, absolutely, they're clearing.
Or is it
up
only for residents?
They're only clearing up the Dearborn Heights tickets and paying the fines and the
Okay.
cost that they owe for committing the crime in Dearborn Heights.
Crime would have happened in
Happened in
Dearborn
Dearborn
Heights.
Heights,
Okay,
yes.
the second question for you, and this is.
It's sort of like what Dearborn did last.
Right, I think Dearborn did it, Inkster did it, I went to the one in Inkster, I remember.
Council Chair,
So the question I
because if the fines aren't paid, they can't get it expunged. If they're not paid, everyone may not know that. If somebody still owes $500 in fines, they can't get,
Right, they
you
still
have to have
gotta pay
all
it.
your costs, I'm sorry, but
So
go
the
ahead.
second question I had, at juvenile court, which I think is really a great idea, because especially some of our younger generation, when they, make bad decisions, again, you don't want to ruin the rest of their lives. You want to make sure they go in the right direction. But the question for you is, what about veterans court? I know there is one, some near here, but is there any consideration for that, and what's your opinion on that?
Veterans Court and Drug Court are 2 things I've looked at, and I can't touch it right now until we get some of these other projects, but yes, I am considering.
It is on your radar for the
Yes,
future?
absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Any other council members? Go ahead, Councilman.
Yeah, when you say juvenile court, you plan on, are we hiring another person? And you mentioned the name Gary. Who's Gary?
Gary Miyake.
Oh, Gary Miyake. Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, Gary and I, actually,
Okay.
we met each other before. We really didn't know each other, and we kind of thrown together, but I think our personalities
Okay.
work
So,
well together, so
yeah.
we're trying to see how we can.
When you
move
say
forward.
juvenile court,
Yes.
what do you mean? What's going to be, are they going to represent the city in juvenile court? Or are they going to represent the
Well, juvenile court, like the one in Dearborn, and we looked at some others, we studied it, it allows the individual to come in to the courtroom with his parents, and we would have them go before city corporation counsel or city attorney, and the charges would be discussed if they have a chance to sort of like do a diversion type program. Now, they'd have to go, we don't want a long-term probation period. We want a short-term, but we want to get resources available to them, like Growth Works that I've met with and some other organizations that would work on rehabilitating, turning it around, not giving that record, but addressing the family and the actions of the individual. We have school officers, support officers, really stressed out in our schools. And I've talked with the superintendents from D7, Crestwood,
Westwood.
throughout, Westwood, and it's really needed. The problem we ran into, and I've talked to one of our court administrators, former Judge Peruk, about how we can legally handle those residents from outside our area. I don't think Inkster has a school district, so 3 of their schools are in Inkster, but they are in our district. We have a lot of students from Detroit, different cities that go.
So when a juvenile commits an offense in the city of Dearborn Heights, regardless of where they're from,
It has to be
they
Dearborn
come
Heights.
to court
With
in-
their parents.
in our court,
Right.
right? Okay, so isn't that what our magistrate does, is makes deals with them and tries to be lenient with them if it's necessary?
No, they go downtown primarily if they get, depending on
It's not a
the,
civil infraction. This would be considered.
right, this is a criminal infraction.
They're charged.
And I put a list together of all.
So they don't come to our court, they go downtown.
Vaping,
Yeah.
traffic, suspended driver's license.
Assault.
And battery, the CSE cases, we want to handle it here. The CSE is some of the high.
Aren't our courts jammed up as they are? I mean, aren't we overbooked and right as it is, or?
This was brought to me by Judge Turfy when I came in.
Okay.
And I followed his lead. I put the plan together and I brought it downtown. We're trying to get, I don't know if the prosecutor's office is going to agree to it yet, but we're trying alternatives to do that.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Council Chair.
Go ahead.
So can we go with through the first line, and what's the other line, 826,000, what's that for?
826.
That ends by 826,000.
Council services.
When you have to pay for extra.
Contractual services?
Oh, if we contract out certain services, like certain labor issues, that we've had disputes with former officers suing the city, those are specific contractual law firms that we use. That's an example.
And the
And
first
pension,
line,
law firms that work with pension issues that we've had to use, and healthcare for pension benefits, things like that.
and the first line, is that your salary, or is that
That's the salary plus the individual that you'd be hiring.
Yes.
Plus the gentleman.
Plus the individual that I would be hiring.
What was it? What's the answer?
Plus the individual that I would be hiring.
And I presume that 5642, under legal fees counsel, that's the one that we had at one particular point for, if we want to, our own corporation attorney.
Which one was that?
5642, 826.101 on the bottom left.
Yeah, legal
Yes.
counsel fees,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
And if you notice, none of it was used.
What's he doing?
Yeah, so we really don't need it unless we absolutely have to. We can bring it, always bring it up.
How come that equals 177 recommended budget on my first line? 177,000.
that's for salary?
Salaries? So-
Okay, any other questions
Yeah,
for
okay.
corporation counsel?
Yeah, we just asked line one, it's, the 22-23 budget is 115,000. For next year's budget, it's 177,000.
Right, that's with the additional, remember, he needed an additional junior
Yeah.
attorney?
And that
And the
was
gentleman
for-
that was introduced to us, and that's at 62,000, I believe.
62,000?
Yep.
And that'd be different than the 95,000? So
The 95,000,
that's for the highlighted area?
yeah, that 95 represents the total new court projected cost. 75,000 for the juvenile court, 10,000 for the expungement, and another 10,000 for the amnesty for a combined 95. That's not a salary.
This is not a salary. What is it? What is it?
Well, I
What's
mean,
the
it's paid, but it's not like for the corporation
Is it an
counsel.
additional employee?
No, it's
No.
professional services.
Contracted out?
Right.
Now, these are capped out at this price, or is this what we're gonna give them as a salary to this a company or something, or what's that?
This is for professional services that he's trying to start the juvenile court system that he was talking about, as well as the expungement. This is just a placeholder that it would cost approximately $75,000 and then $10,000 for the other two.
Okay. So that's a potential position we're adding.
It's not a position, it's professional
Well,
services.
it's a professional service we're adding.
Right.
To a company or something or whatever,
That's
an entity.
Okay?
Council Chair, quickly, these programs like the juvenile program are great benefit, and I'll tell you why, especially when I worked in Dearborn, there's a big difference if they send, especially, let's say, a young person who's a member of the Yemeni community down to juvenile court. I did the prosecutions, the families would often bring in a child to do the translating. And I've been practicing 32 years. The juvenile court, the Wayne County Juvenile Court, the youth home, terribly underfunded. You go into the facility, there's been all this debate about replacing it, and there was a famous case, the Amir case. A family was involved in what was basically an abuse and neglect case, and their children were taken all out of the home. They found out later that the children had
Rahab Hummer, right?
brittle
2010 case.
bone disease, and the children didn't want to come home. Gino Polidori and I were very involved in that case. So it's a great benefit. And also, young man is kicked out of school for whatever reason. He's, he's a big kid, or and he misses so much school, and then, the next penalty is, well, he gets suspended more. They just take him out of school. He doesn't graduate. He doesn't have a, he's not a productive member of society. And I've really seen that.
I've worked 5 years at the AG's office with child in need of services and children in the system, so I have a heart for that program, and I agree with you. Thank you.
Council
We
Chair,
go to the next
one quick question. I've spent the last 5 years downtown juvenile court, and it's not a nice place. 5 years, I've been going there twice a month.
Excuse me,
We're getting off the
Okay.
topic.
But,
Yes, we
does it
we've had 10 minutes left.
Point of order.
taking these cases and bringing them to the Dearborn Heights, would we potentially get extra fees involved, more profit?
We'd have to work a deal with the Third Circuit, but I'd like to see that, because then we could put it towards more diversion programs and other agencies that exist now that can really use to help the families with the kids. And really, that's an area that we can't leave out.
Okay, let's go, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Let's go to Controller's Office next.
Yes.
Ms. King, go ahead. Page 14.
Last but not least, yes, page 14.
Now, for those, obviously, council members, remember, she had the early presentation, which gave us kind of a little bit of an overview, but go ahead.
Yes, I did. Thank you. This is your salaries, that is including the new accountant, and I also had added an accounting clerk to this, which would be at $45,000. Again, that is recommended. I do not have to have that. And I had added, again, another 5% increase for my employees, again, as a placeholder. We don't have negotiations. We do have negotiations with TPOAM that will be coming up in June, and I just wanted to put something there as a placeholder. Moving on to, let's see, overtime, I have $1,000, which is right about what I, just for a placeholder for overtime, because there is days where we offer overtime to the employees when needed.
Are they salary?
No, my
Okay.
employees are union. I
That's
do
right.
have my accountant and my deputy I don't have a deputy right now, but the deputy position would be salary. However, my union, I do have union employees still working in the department. Hospital insurance, that's standard. Your life insurance, your general government pension, because I took that out of the fringe benefits, so now fringe benefits would just be FICA. Supplies, 1,500, that's just standard. Dues and membership fees, we had $1,000. I think here's just a placeholder of $500. I believe dues and membership fees is more for the union employees. I'm not 100% sure of that. Professional contracted services is where we really jumped because everything was in the general fund last year, and I'm moving it over to the comptroller department, which is where it should be because a lot of the contract services that we have been using in the past is for Plant Moran, as well as anything that has to do with the finance department. So we did kind of want to put a placeholder there for future reference. We do know that our audit cost about $70,000, contractual services for $420, along with our Paylocity fees and other professional fees. We just put a placeholder in there.
Can we go
Council
over
Chair?
those service fees?
Sure.
So what's the first one for it? 420,000?
Plant Moran Gap.
That is going to be for our Plant Moran Gap. That is going to be for our audit at the end of the year, our single audit, as well as our financial audit.
I'm so sorry, can I just interrupt real quick? Do you think we're under budgeting for Plant Moran Group, though? I mean, year to date, I know we were in the high 700s.
And that's why I put the extra 310,000 there, so we're definitely $700,000. My plan, my goal is to really start eliminating them over the next 6 to 9 months, once I can get a deputy in there, and I have my accountant here who's actually just been on the ground running right from the beginning. I can't speak well enough for him. There's a lot of things that need to be changed in that office, and I think that you're well aware of that. And I really just wanted to make sure that the money was there in case I have to use it for Plant Moran until I can get up and running.
My
sorry?
question is how long Plant Moran is going to be here?
I would like to see Plant Moran gone within the next 6 to 9 months at the
Because,
latest.
I mean, we're paying.
We're
you,
paying them a lot of money.
And we're paying a deputy
Yes.
and
We
people
haven't
that do
gotten
the
a
same
deputy
kind
yet.
of work that Plant Moran does, and it's kind of like double dipping here, and it bothers
Absolutely.
me.
Council Chair?
It bothers me.
Yeah.
And I just want you to know, you're doing a great job. Thank you so much.
Yes.
But when we first brought on Plant Moran Group, and we were at Riverside at the time when we voted on this, it was $400,000 for the year. And they expected to be with us and, for 6 to 9 months, and any overage would become. It was 6 to 9 months. Here we're going on almost 2 years.
And I can only say that you've had a revolving door for your comptroller. And I've been here 9 months, and I have not had a deputy. For a very short time, I had a deputy, and I just got an accountant. So unfortunately, things take time, and I can foresee the future within the next 6 to 9 months. I will not be utilizing
All
them
right.
as much.
Look, you might have the hardest job in all of City Hall, truly.
Well, yes.
And so we thank you for that.
Max would like to speak on that behalf.
You guys finally hear my voice. So, me and Comptroller Cindy, we've discussed over the past 3 weeks that I've been here. Is it on?
Yeah, you gotta speak into it.
Sorry, I thought I was. So I came in March 20th, so it's only been 2 weeks. Cindy and I have already discussed multiple different processes and procedures that will greatly make the Comptroller Department very efficient. Right now, I've already estimated that $100,000 in administrative costs could be cut out in terms of like actual processes and procedures that are in place right now. So for instance, a process that would take 10 hours, you could actually complete in 2 hours with the same exact kind of controls and in place to make sure you're not actually sacrificing quality for speed. So I'm just giving you guys a heads up that Cindy and I have been looking at different processes, and we're trying to make everything more efficient. So be more open-minded as to change, because the only way we're going to be able to save money and get Plant Moran out of here is by reducing our processes time throughput and allowing me or whoever, which other employees, to complete more tasks within a 40-hour work week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Max, honestly, I don't know you, but what I can tell is I can tell you're passionate, and
I actually taught 10 years of Sunday school with your older brother.
Oh, really? Nice.
I'm Mahdi, by the way. For Americans, they call me Max. I go by Mahdi also. So.
Mahdi. I'd love to call you Mahdi. I
So
love
tell
that.
Rashida I said hi.
Nice, I will. I will tell you, me and my brother Rashid are day and night.
You also pray Friday prayer with my dad, Juice Beidun.
Oh, wow, you're Juice's son.
Yes, I'm Juice.
I know who your dad is, yes.
Nice.
Stop right there.
It's a small world.
Too many
Yeah.
connections.
Greatest basketball player in the city of Dearborn ever.
Wow.
So, yes, we do have a lot of work ahead of us, and we are trying very hard to get some processes and procedures in place. They will be coming to the board probably within the next, well, because the budget is going to take a little bit longer, but we do want to get some process in place in front of you for approval.
Okay.
And so we do ask that you are a little bit more open-minded, because there are some things that we do want to modify and change. And again, in the long run, it will be saving money
Okay,
and time.
so let me ask the question about, I'm sorry, we still,
Are you still giving your presentation? I don't think you finished, you didn't go all the way down to the bottom yet, did you? The training and, but anyway, I guess if you're, are she open for questions now, or are you gonna ask a question?
Yeah, I'm just going to ask a question. So Comptroller, let's talk about the elephant in the room, and let me be the black cloud, be a little bit on the negative end this time. So the concern that I've got as a council member is, and it's not all your fault, just to make it clear, and it's not your fault, so I don't want you to think I'm going in that direction, but I've had concerns about the Comptroller's office, just like we originally had concerns about the Assessor's office, and that was worked out when we had we subcontracted it out, probably about, I think, was it 6 years ago,
Yeah.
Ray? 6 years ago?
Longer than that.
Previous to that, it was like every other month, we had a different assessor in there. We contracted it out. And as I just spoke with them earlier today, I hear almost no complaints, other than my taxes are too high. But beyond that, I hear almost no complaints, and things are going smooth. Now I look at the Comptroller's office, and I'm trying to understand, is this a process that's wrong? Is there some inside, and I'm going to be blunt, inside issues? And I've had some calls about, and some of it, I know it's probably gossip, some of it might be truth, some of it might be made up, who knows? But I've had some contacts from different people from within that particular office. And the concern that I've got is we've had 4, and it might be also an HR situation too, obviously. Not you specifically, but we've had 4 controllers in the last, I think, maybe 2 years, maybe 3. We've added, Plant Moran Gap at, I think it was about 600,000, if I'm not mistaken, last year, 580, if I'm not mistaken, or somewhere around there. We've hired an additional young gentleman here as an accountant at 57,000. We have a projected increase, or ask, I should say, for the deputy controller from 67,000 to now 80,000, if the number is correct, is that 80?
Yes.
Yes. Then we have, I know it's awkward, but we have to address it, yourself, and I know you're doing a great job so far, but you're also obviously, without negotiating salary, obviously, but it's a pretty good amount, without going over the numbers, but it's a pretty good amount. So now when I look at, from a council member's from a council member's perspective, we have a lot of dishing out, and lots of turnover and some issues in there. What is the answer to all this? Because I know it's not a question, but it's a concern. Because there seems to be a lot of National Enquirer type of stuff almost in that department.
And yes, I agree with you, and I can only say that I truly believe that the process itself is broken, and we really need to work on the process. I have been working with the Treasurer's Department. I sat down with her again today, and we actually worked out a clean process that we know that we can work toward. And one of the main reasons, obviously, is the writing of checks. We need to get away from that and start doing ACH payments, and that would eliminate a lot of this. We also need to streamline the process so that when the paperwork or the funds are being transferred we talked about this with all the bank accounts. We need to close a lot of those bank accounts so that we can start transferring the funds, and it would be a lot cleaner process, and we can follow it a lot easier. I don't think that you're going to save money by trying to outsource all this, because your finance department really needs to stay in-house. You're not going to get your reports out that you need. You're not going to know where your money is going if you keep outsourcing everything. I think sometimes people think that's the right answer, is to outsource things. I personally don't see that, because you don't have a handle on what is actually going in and out, especially when it comes to finance. I do have a plan. I do have a 3-year plan in my head. I would say within the next 6 months, you're definitely going to start seeing improvement, and you can start seeing things moving in the right direction. I have had a lot of turnover in the finance department as well as the water department, because since I've been here, I haven't had a full staff, first of all, and that's part of that reason is because some of the people went out FMLA, or because they have all this excess time and they wanted to start taking their time off. Does it have anything to reflect on me that they're leaving? Personally, I think it's because of change. People don't like change. They want to do what they're doing, they want to do it their way, and they don't want to change it. And that's why I brought in an accountant to do the accounts payable, because I know that it has to be changed. We have to modify it. We need to change. Instead of writing checks and going into different departments and all these different bank accounts, we're going to go into one pool accounting, one specific bank account, and then they're all going to be ACH channeled, which isn't going to take 4 days to do. So I can have him start doing other stuff that's within my finance department. One is our procurement. We've been hit on procurement every single year for I don't know how many years now. That needs to be addressed, and that's something that we really need to start looking at. So there's a lot of things that need improvement, that need to be fixed, and that's why I feel that I've been brought in here. I think that a lot of people are probably getting upset because they don't think I'm moving fast enough, and that's understandable. I can understand that. However, there isn't anything everything I touch needs to be fixed in some way, and that takes time.
Okay.
Okay, wait.
Thank you.
Max wants to-
Council Chair?
One more thing.
Let the gentleman go ahead.
So the current accounts payable process, when I first came in and trained, it took 4 days to complete. I believe that the accounts payable process, with the processes and procedures that Cindy and I have discussed, and we will bring it before council, hopefully this upcoming council meeting, will take only a day to complete, which allows 3 extra days of work that can be completed on other activities. So I'll be taking over accounts payable, but I can also help with procurement, bank reconciliations, which Plant Moran is doing right now. And also, once you consolidate the banks, bank reconciliations are going to be extremely easy. Plant Moran's charging you a high rate for what they're doing per hour. I can pretty much do what Plant Moran does. The problem is that right now we have to clean the system before we tell Plant Moran we don't need you anymore. Also, the comptroller department, the problem I've seen is that employees are specialized. Oh, I'm in accounts payable. I don't know what procurement is. Oh, I'm a journal entry. That's accounts payable. Accounting is a function as a whole, and we need to hire people in the department that are knowledgeable in all areas of accounting and not just data entry. That's my job. I put 40 hours in, I go home.
I agree.
We need people, okay, I do accounts payable, but you need help, I'm helping you. We need to make this process more efficient, and I do believe the amount of people in the comptroller department are too many. We have too many people. However, the only way we can make it more efficient is by hiring cross-functional employees that are experienced and actually have accounting degrees and not data entry people. That's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council Chair?
Councilman, was it Wenzel first, then Councilman Muscat. Go ahead,
Thank you.
Councilman.
I hope maybe before our next study session on this, or hearings, we can get the breakdown of the salaries, because I'm just looking at your department. Yours is 381,000. How many employees is that?
That is 6, 7.
7 employees? I mean,
Yes.
it'd be nice to have the breakdown of your salary and this gentleman's salary and everybody's salary. I mean, then see how much you want to increase it. No, I know in your department as well as HR department, they've eliminated or union positions have been vacated and not being filled back in with union employees. And this administration seems to have a knack for eliminating union jobs and not replacing them with union jobs. I know I can speak of several right now. Is there a reason why we're not doing that?
We're not eliminating jobs. We're moving the union employees over to other positions that are better fit for them. As Max had stated, when you're in the accounting department, I need somebody who understands accounting and not just do data entry. And that's what we have had thus far, and that's why we've had to bring in Plant Moran for the past 2 years, because things have not been done on a timely basis with the individuals that we have, because they just don't have the knowledge. And I think that's probably the hardest part that we have. They're there to do data entry. They're there from 8 to 5, Monday through Thursday, to just do data entry. And like I had stated earlier, Max was on all weekend working on something that came up at the last minute, and we had to do this PowerPoint presentation. That's not something that I could have asked my union employees to do. So that's the difference between having accounting employees that understand accounting, and that I pay them for a job. I don't even want to say a job. I guess it's it encumbers the whole department. You need to be able to do procurement, payroll. He's going to be my backup for payroll as well. I mean, right now it's desegregated by positions. You do just this and you do just that, and that's why I really believe that the system is broken.
Okay, well, that's fine. I mean, we need to have everything fixed, but being new here, you got to realize every department in our city needs upgraded staff. Okay, so and we can't upgrade everyone in 1 year. So you got to realize this is a step by step. Like our HR director said, you can't go from 0 to 60. Okay, so you got to start. So if you don't get what you want this first year, we'll get to it. Like we need, today I seen the street sweepers out. I mean, you've seen all the people out there waving to the street sweepers. It'd be cool to have guys that all they did was clean streets. But, we can't do that. We got to, we budgeted wisely. So we can't fix one department entirely in one budget. It's not fair, so we got to work at it a little bit at a time.
I'm just letting you know I'm here for a long time, not a good time. So, my previous employment, I just want to let you guys know, I spent 3 years with somebody. I tried fixing the processes. I've tried fixing the procedures. It went nowhere, so I resigned. I came into this job. In the interview, Cindy told me things are going to be difficult, things are going to be hard. I'm somebody that likes fixing things. I fix problems. That's what I specialize in. I make things more efficient. And I'm not here thinking that this is going to be done in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. My main focus at the beginning is to try getting everything out of Plant Moran's hands, because the last thing you want to do is pay an accounting firm the hourly rate you're paying them when you can literally have 5 accounting employees for the exact same rate.
Oh, more.
Yeah, so you can have 5 full-time accountants for the same rate that you're paying Plant Moran. Now, the problem with doing that is that if you're hiring 5 full-time accountants, those are full-time employees, and you have to give them all the benefits. So what we're trying to do is get everything more efficient, bring everything in-house. I'll take most of what Plant Moran would do, and then hopefully within the next year or two, we'll have maybe one more accountant or somebody that has accounting experience that will help the department complete all tasks internally.
Okay. Councilman,
Sounds great.
not a question here, but more of a comment that I've seen throughout my years of being here. Other than Mr. Constance, I don't know if anybody has been here longer than I have, coming to meetings and a complete overview of everything. But everything's been broken for many, many, many years. We've done the same thing over and over and over again. And if you go and look at our past Plant Moran audits, they tell you that. And no one has ever paid attention to it. And, that's how you get in trouble. No different than how Sears got in trouble and Kmart got in trouble. All the big companies that, who'd ever believe Sears went out of business, but they kept doing the same thing, made the same mistakes over and over again without even trying to fix it. So I'm all in favor for fixing this thing and going forward. And we may have to, or both of them may have to change as they go along. Say, oh yeah, this is not working, let's go this route instead. And I'm all for that. That's just my comment, no question here.
Okay. Any other council members go ahead.
Briefly, regarding electronic payments, I'll tell you one thing, the public demands it. So I used to, when I filed a case, I would mail in paperwork with a check. You can't do it anymore. And there's been articles in the paper about the front of the court, how behind they are, and the government payment systems they use. But nobody uses cash, nobody has cash, and people demand 24-hour service. And then also, I know it's a challenge, once the city gets these payment kiosks, the div-dat machines, that's an extra job to account for that money coming in and the fees coming off and so forth and so on. And years ago, our comptroller, everybody knew him, everybody loved him, Don Barrow, I don't know that he had a degree.
No, he was a dog catcher.
Yeah, and I can remember years ago, everyone saying in the city, no more, we're not issuing any more paychecks. If you're not signed up for automatic payments, you're not getting your paycheck. And you've got a lot of employees that if there's a mistake or they don't get their payment, they're unhappy.
Right, right.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for the controller? Wait, Councilman?
No, I know, I'm not.
Okay.
I have one more question for you. Can you go to that one slide that shows the percentages of each department?
We're all gonna be emailed to us.
I know,
Yes,
but I want
email.
tonight.
Oh, he wants to go over it. Okay,
Yes.
so I'm going to give an opportunity for any of the residents on Zoom or in person to ask questions. The particular department head may or may not be here, but at the very minimal, you'll have the opportunity to ask the question. And then, George, if you could do me a huge favor, if a particular department head is not here, you could maybe give them any of the residents' numbers and they could contact them and answer their questions in case they had. Come on up, you'll have 2 minutes, we'll make it
Hang on
3.
1 second, I'm just gonna do this on my phone. Hang on 1 second, please.
Oh, no, I can wait a second. Gives me a chance to look over my notes again.
I'm gonna give you 2 minutes, I'm gonna do it on my phone instead of.
All right, go ahead.
That's fine.
Go ahead.
Rachel LaPointe, Merrick Street, Dearborn Heights. Max, you're my new favorite. Love it. You are a man after my own heart. Processes, procedures. I've been trying to talk to you guys about some of those. I feel like sometimes I'm not always great at getting it across, but I have great hopes for you. Love all the programs the lawyer's coming up with. Really think the juvenile court, I really hope we can pursue that. Let's see. These are kind of all over the place. Something I was thinking about before I even came in tonight, if we, the members of the public, and this would probably help you guys too, if we could get like a list of all the companies or people that we contract with. So like, for example, in the corporation council budget where there's professional contractual services, get it broken down like, O'Reilly Rancillo or whoever it is, Miyake, just get it broken down so that people can know who are the companies that the city uses. Make sure that a lawyer's not pretending to misrepresent the city or something, things like that. Where on the budget was Plant Moran's year-to-date spending? Because I don't think that was on the comptroller's line.
It was in general, earlier from last year, they put it.
It was a general government. Is it on here though? Because I didn't see it when I was looking through the general government. If you could look into that and get back.
You want the total that we've spent on Plant Moran for last year? Okay.
Yeah. I think everyone in this room and the whole city wants to give everybody raises. I think it's really great that you put in 5% for everyone as a placeholder. I think that's a great start, especially with the upcoming negotiations. Pensions don't pay the DTE bill or the water bill now, so I absolutely agree with you, Council Chair, that looking at getting those base salaries raised, even if it comes out of pensions or some other benefits, I think that's a really good idea. And I had a question for our HR director. You said there's 11 open positions or something like that in police. That's how many are open, not how many have quit in the past year, correct? Quit, resigned, or left in the last year would not be 11, correct? Okay. Yeah, that's fine. If we could get that number, I think the public would really appreciate that in terms of how, because I know that's a hot topic. It's something that, it's the elephant in the room right now. Because the number I've heard is 27, 28 officers have left. I know we've hired some, so that means that that number of open positions doesn't necessarily reflect how many people have left. And, wow, got it in. Oh, be careful with promo materials, Mo. Don't want to go across campaign finance if you're getting city council budget stuff for supplies. You mentioned pens or something. So, I thought you did. Okay, maybe it was, when you're talking about the stationery. Oh, pins. Oh, okay.
All right, time
got
out.
it. Thank you. I thought you said pens. I'm like,
anybody-
just be careful,
anybody on
because if it says
Zoom?
like Mo Doon Councilman, yeah.
Anybody on
Okay,
Zoom
yeah,
that would
I
like
know,
to
that's a
comment?
rough one.
Okay, again, anybody on Zoom that would like to comment? Seeing none? Oh, I'm sorry, Tim Emery from Tifa, go ahead.
Sorry, I got
Vince first.
Tim Emery, oh, does Vince, oh, it was lost between the white behind him. Tim, can you go ahead and unmute yourself? I know, but Vince, are you unmuted?
I think so.
All right, go ahead.
I got the timer. Can you see the timer?
Can you see the clock?
Can you see the clock?
No.
Yeah, she'll get it on the video.
We can't even see the people that are speaking.
right.
Normally we do, but anyway, you've got negotiations coming up, and I don't know if this is a proper time to do it or not. But if we're having issues with keeping people in the ordinance department, and I have asked and requested this for many years, why isn't the ordinance department under the supervision and direction of the police department? Where it originally began, years ago. So the budget would be a lot bigger, you would have more supervision, and then you would also have your officers who are sworn to uphold the laws of this city, who can also turn around and be ordinance officers at the same time and issue tickets properly.
Right.
And not have to worry about having somebody go out there and issue a ticket. So consider that in your budget.
Okay. Thank you. That's it. Thank you. Tim Emery, can you unmute yourself, please?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Talking about the court, the juvenile court, that has nothing to do with Westwood. We did that years ago with the city of Dearborn Heights and courts. So,
Okay,
continue a good thing.
all right.
And a lot
I
of-
appreciate it.
How'd it work out, Tim?
Grant money available.
Worked out great.
Okay. We all-
It was part of the juvenile the justice system we have, the classes we have at Robichaud with the consortium of the three districts.
Interesting.
So,
Okay. Thank you, Tim.
glad it started up again.
Appreciate it. Anybody else on Zoom? Seeing none? All right, well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Directors, you guys did a lot of great job, a lot of great work, especially the initial presentation. I really appreciate that. So if you can both email that to us would be great.
Yes. Mr.
Thank you very
Munson,
much.
Is that what you'd like to see? Okay, I can send that to you.
You send the entire.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That would be great.
Wasn't there one from also direct, oh, we got the directors.
Yes.
Yep, okay, thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
good night, everyone.
Everyone.